Okay, timeline. General timeline. How far do we want to go back? I would say Destiny update, right? Destiny patch. When was the last the boycott stuff? Because I think the servers were already in a good spot right before Destiny came out, rather than... It must have been early 2022, right? Uh, 14th, yeah. 13th is going to be the last day of the current events, and then 14th is going to be patch day for Savior. When was the last boycott? Where can I see that? Open up my Discord. Because I was in some kind of boycott Discord. Not any of these. Oh, here. No. Maple Podcast? No. Was it a MapleStory specific Discord? Reboot GPQ. Suckhards calculators. Jew Discord. Another Jew Discord. Reboot Oz. Maple Alliance? Was that it? Oh, here it is. I wonder if anything's being set up here. Okay, there's not as much going on in this Discord. I would expect there to be a bunch of stuff coming around. Updates. Yeah, this is all from the... Okay, so it seems like the last boycott... Yeah, it looks like January. Where were the strategy posts? Double drop, not double lies. Got him. Call for next one. Oh, this was in March. Yeah, March 2022. Okay, so we have February. Wait, February. You guys do them like that, right? Who's up? Saint Luna TV. Thank you for the Prime. Welcome to the Scar Charts? Yeah, that's what you guys are called, right? Scar Charts? Yeah. Appreciate the Prime. Thank you, thank you. Congrats on your extra badge. Your emotes, beautiful. Emotes, beautiful, amazing. Your face is great. Thank you. February 22, we've got game is unplayable. Servers horrible. Okay. March 22, we get boycott Even though poker start, people are laughing, but change actually happens. I think we have April. Was it late April and May? I'm gonna check the website. Is where they start working on the news. Shit, how do I find all the news in one place again? We got like a filter here, see more news. See more! Isn't there like a filter I can press to see like what type of stuff I get? Oh, here, 2022. Okay, and then events, community, maintenance? I wonder if it falls under maintenance. Use browser overlapping document. I know. Well, I don't need this yet anyway. I was just setting that up for later. And also just scrolling, you're not missing anything. No worries, no worries. This is just an update fix. Login server maintenance, April. March, minor patch. Let's see if you can find what kind of updates these are. That's just closure of the burning world. Megaphone, WAP, additional changes, NA reboot as part of the ongoing lag investigations. Yeah, see, this was early. That was as early as March. Fully reinstall the game. That was a 64-bit. That was March 16th. Bro, why can't you just do that? Okay, whatever. How does that work? Like this? No, come on, man. You know what I mean. Why is this so fucking hard, bro? Why can't you just do that? Why does this separate it? Ugh. Okay, it's gonna look scuffed, but whatever. March, what is it, 16th? Received it later than expected, but also with fewer flaws than other regions. You have to wait long for that. 18th, that's when we did the Okay, it has nothing to do with it. This was regular maintenance, or was this more lag investigation? Okay, more lag investigation here. Talk about April. Compensation. Metals being removed. Blah blah blah. Yeti Pink Bean. Replace the server instance hardware for Scania channels. Okay, so they're still working on stuff here. 14th. Hardware for Aurora and other channels. Hot fixes, probably not too. Ping Bean, client launch probably through Steam and GeForce. That was on the 18th, okay. Game update April 27th, so that must probably the Blooming Forest. Yeah, that was the... And I think at this point, I think the game was playable, right, for Blooming Forest, I think. So April 17th, any patch at this point game. Oh. Lag and it's gone, and 64-bit client works. When was Goo? When was the Goo event? Was that in between? Update. That was before, right? June 1st, Blooming Forests. Foodies. Yeah, that was 2021 probably. Goo was just before On Live? What is On Live? On Live these nuts! Oh, got him. Double Superstars, Foodies, Double Superstars, Blooming Forest, then Destiny, then Rocking Revamp, then Carnival, then Ignition. Yeah, that was all last year. Maple Live, Buddhism. Yeah, but it was 2021 probably, right? Let's just double check. You get like a year in rerun. We had On Air. Oh, On Air, that was the Lara unit, yeah. And then we had Goo Island before that. Yeah, you're right. Then we had Neo. Dude, that's... Oh, man. That's how long ago Neo already was? Damn. And then Maple Hotel before that. Prime Time. Another primer. Yo, thank you very much, Axel. Axel. Wait, why am I saying Axel? You're not Crab Axel. You're Alex. And my mom calls Axel Alex. Okay, my brain had a short circuit. I fixed it, don't worry. Moonlight Magic, Spring Blossoms, Hotel Maple, Neo, Goo Island, On Air. Yeah, okay. This is a boycott stream. I think we're gonna end up at it, yeah. Because that seems to be the language that Nexon can understand. The only thing that they're trying to respond to. Oh, I should maybe do a little bit before this. I want to stay up until game connectivity steadily gets or declines. Changing channels, characters, maps, and even any bossing or gameplay cause the game to memory leak. And become horribly There was something else. It was CCing, changing characters, and also just like playing for an extended time. But there was something else. Cache up? Well, cache up is CCing, so that's included in that. Mem leak? Yeah, I have that. Was mem leak? Was it just playing a long time? I think I have longer playing sessions. Storage? Yeah. That was a long time issue. No, you just want to, I want to get a single space. Yeah, there you go. I made a YouTube video, I think that was titled like best time ever to come back or something, right? Best time to play. Best time to return to something like that. What did I call it? Yeah, the best time to return to MapleStory.
It is that time. You were thinking, is it worth it to come back to MapleStory? And for the first time ever,
Look at me. Look at me being non-critical of Nexon, by the way. Look at how I start this video.
that time of the year again where you are thinking, is it worth it to come back to MapleStory? And for the first time ever, I'm here to tell you, it is. And here's why.
The first time ever. Literally say that. Because up to this, whenever somebody said like, "Oh, I haven't played MapleStory in a while. Should I come back?"
Destiny update is coming.
In the Twitch chat or something, I would always say, "Why would you make such a horrible decision with your life?"
June 15th. Not official, but most likely. It is coming, and it is going to be massive. So
Look at my
why
PowerPoint
come back?
presentation.
Well, there is actually an all-time high server and client stability.
Wait, it has the Blooming Forest background, and then the other ones have Destiny update. Oh my god, nobody even said that. Did I did this on purpose? Or is it because I used my previous presentation and I didn't check? Bro, look at my PowerPoint presentation. This shit is bussin'. Got all the pictures dropped from Max's posts on Orange Mushroom. I can do that, okay? I'm a Patreon. Hashtag blessed. Okay. In the Twitch, yeah. Okay. I'll link that here for posterity, I guess. Then, okay, then what do we get? And then the Blooming Forest happens, and I think the Blooming Forest is great. Then Destiny happens. What is this, June? May is fantastic. June. Are we emboldening anything? No. Consistency in spelling. I just gotta know why you're bothering to do this. Reddit Hive Mind doesn't want logic or discourse, they just want to be mad. Well, yeah, but if you can give them something structured to be mad about and to support that will actually fix their problems, then they'll still be helped by it. And this is also kind of for me just to line everything up to see if I should care or not. Because right now, I've noticed the feeling that I'm inclined to not care because I feel like other people care too much. But letting how much other people care about something determine how much you should be caring about it that's not a good response. So I want to make sure that it's justified or not by just lining it up first. Okay, let's see. And then I think Destiny, most of Destiny was still great too. Getting all the pieces for them to know your stance. You've already done your due diligence. Or I feel like I have, yeah, but I haven't gone through other streamers' videos yet. I also want to do that and make sure that I'm not like forgetting anything or not missing any good arguments at this point. Because I feel like so far what I've heard, I don't think I'm missing anything super important, but I just want to double check. And also in general, a lot of people are asking like, oh, what do you think of Matt's response, or what did you think of Coppersun's second video? What did you think? People are just asking, and I think it's good for people to be curious. But I haven't seen the things yet, so I can't say. So I'll just make sure that I have in one place, kind of like that I have watched it. I'll just rewatch it and just make sure I write down my notes, and then people can just check it out there, and I don't have to keep saying over and over what I think about everything, you know. Okay, from what I can remember is that the Destiny patch was still fine. I think Rockin' Revamp is also still good. And I think the Midnight Carnival also was still good. Right? I think Midnight Carnival... Because I remember with Midnight Carnival, I was like, oh god. When we had an event like this and you had to like CC and you go to the map for extra buffs and stuff, there was lag, right? There was lag because there were a lot of people there. The bumper card bug. What was bumper card bug? Wait. Bumper card was one of the skills you could buy to... If three people hit each other, they'd all get stuck? Okay. What do you think of Ethereus' response to misusing TV's response to Coppersun's video and Sekiri's response to Coppersun's original video, though? Yeah, that's a good question. Event MVP limit. I'm not saying that it was perfect, but the game was playable. I guess I notice that I am just way more... I care way more about like stability of the client and the fact that you can actually play the game or not, rather than what exactly kind of content is in there. That comes like so far second for me. Because as long as the game is stable and you can play when you want to play, at least then you can just find whatever is fun and just focus on that. Because maybe people's priorities are just not quite the same. Permanent bumper car noise after completing the bumper car that you had to log out to stop it. Oh yeah, I had that once. True. Okay, I remember it. I want to say it was either slightly starting with Midnight Carnival or it was with Ignition that like issues starting to like creep back up on. Same with Neo Tokyo. I think it definitely was an Ignition, and with the island and stuff, right? When people's clients stopping. Patch notes, August. August the 31st. And then October 5th. Oh, that's why it looks so weird. Because I'm not adding the thist, and the thist. Midnight Carnival. Good content, or at least not horrible. Every event definitely has its own bugs and glitches, but overall enjoyment and stability of players is considered all-time high until. And Saver is Ignition is at December 8th. No, preview December 15th. When was the storage bug fixed? Was that in Ignition? BTS event killed Maple. November 22nd? Oh, yes, you're right, you're right. No, wait, patch notes? No, November 16th or November 16th. Second ignition update? Yeah. To be live? Well, to play. I think from Ignition, every single update just made the game less stable. Neo Tokyo had a lot of issues. I'm not gonna keep track of all of the maintenances and all the bug fix and all that shit that they're doing. That's like too much to kind of keep track of. That was February? Yeah, because the other event is super long, right? Please read everything you're typing up because I'm going for a smoke with my headphones on. February 8th. 8th. 2022. Neo Tokyo is non-Kimis content and as a result has plenty of issues with it. It would have, however, been okay if not for the continuing downward spiral of overall game issues. February 23rd? Are you telling me we got the patch notes 4 weeks early? Oh, 23. Oh, you're right. Yes. Thank you. Double Trouble. March 22nd. 23. Double Trouble. PT and brings new interesting stuff, but it is not enough to make players look favorably towards content. There is an air of fatigue and feeling of content being thrown at us as a distraction from the growing play issues. This is how I felt. I felt like a lot of people felt like that a lot of that content was not really worth engaging with because it was Kind of just like, oh wow, here's another event, here's another event, here's another event. But at the same time, I felt like the game was kind of like slipping away again. Is Carter bending to the Reddit hate and making content critical of Nexon for the first time ever? Or is this another Classic Carter Shield video promoting Nexon as the best ever company in gaming? Well, we're about to find out. Just stay tuned until the end, okay? Stay tuned for the next episode of Dragon Ball Z. February is also Cube revamp. True. Yeah, I'm not trying to make like a chronological thing of everything that's happening. Just kind of like giving a little bit, just data points so we can kind of. And then Maple Momentary. That's April, so I should put here. So just put filter. When did all of this stuff? Yeah, there were some NVIDIA for issues as well. Investigation on a reboot server issues. That was just a restart though, the April 28th. I'll save that one. Transfer a character about jets. That was on the 27th. Yeah. And then Momentary should have been on, that was on the 27th, right? Catalyst event. Or, well, April 27th, 2023. Supposed to be to date is being completely shadowed by the unexpected announcement of jet. Oh, that class. I'll put this here. So. No, I clicked. There we go. There is a reboot of the reboot server. Whether this is a simple of a cascade of failures that not a symbol, a symptom. Has been building up. It seems to fix the worst issues at that point. Announcements plus the general dismay and of heard plus game stability issues to community. I want to read this again just to see, just to freshen up my memory here. This was updated on the 27th, but it's from the 27th, right? Oh yeah, with the some of the details. So I want to deliver this message to you all personally. You know, it's been a while since I last communicated with you all. I realize I haven't actually introduced myself previously before I started my Pinky Ability last year, which we haven't seen much of. Well, actually, I responded to this as well, right? Corridor jet removal. Cobra-san got 50k on that. I got 8k. Oh no, wait, that's a different video. Mist got 2.7k. I got 4.3k views on that. About the jet characters. Uh-oh. Why are my videos so long? Every part of my community ever. My response here. No way. No shot. Are they doing it? They're doing it. Holy shit. Holy. Dude, I had a feeling. Yeah, I had a feeling. I watched the website without anyone telling me to go watch. Let's see. What are the comments like here? Let's learn for all to not play any classes when KMS is not being deleted in the future. If you ever jump into something else, GMS class was a patch notes bug fix that was allowed to be played. The best main you can pick is Explorer, RIP, level 280, liberated Odium beginner time. Everything really to be done, but it's still hard. At least a second permanent beginner. At least I got a second permanent beginner. RP Golix soon. Waiting for someone to move their equips. Leaded my jet a day before this announcement. RIP. If you're asking that I would give him my way account or just deleting it after this change. I can't trust next time anymore right now. Stay put 7k Legion Bear with 3 cards at level 230 in every class over 200, 210. Just deleting. Class is in a big middle finger to the community without a permanent solution, like a Will of the Alliance skill buff, and what you be losing on all other characters that benefited from having a jet in your account, and it's everyone. So, I was like I'm completely with this comment up until this point, like completely, like deleting a class. I wouldn't say it's a big middle finger, but it definitely is something that's like, there's gonna be friction because of that. But then there's no permanent solution. We're not keeping our damage that the jet gave us. I mean, sure, it's like a few percentage of critical damage, but you're not going to notice your damage going down. That feels like such a weak argument. I feel like there are way stronger arguments here in terms of like why it's a really bad thing for a class to just be deleted. Not like, well, how will I get my 3% critical damage now? That should be permanent now. For me, that falls under the same category of like, why did potential badges get removed? I want more damage. No, it's more like, well, how do you deal with the progression of certain characters? How do you deal with set bonuses? Have you thought of what it's like in terms of legacy items? Are you okay with legacy items to this extent existing? Where do you draw the line as a company? Do you think it's okay for people to even own legacy items, yes or no? These are like, I think, the good arguments and the good questions that you want to ask, not like, why my number go down, bad, number should go up, right? Do I recommend old players to come back to Reboot? If you're going to come back, I would suggest to come back to Reboot and not to non-Reboot, yeah. If it's so hard to maintain and bug fix for jets, then why the fuck are they like, sure, you can still play for a year? Well, I imagine they're just not going to do anything for these people for a year. Oh, this is a little bit out of high past me. It's a little bit out of. Okay, and what is the other? Let me pause this for a second, because the Copperson's got his good old 5-minute videos. Let's see what he said here.
Hey YouTube, Coppersan here, and welcome to another episode of Why No One Plays, with today Why No One Plays Jet. And the reason for that is actually super simple, because the class will no longer exist. Nexon just announced a bombshell of an update. The Jet class is going to be removed next year. What the heck? Our best space girl, who was released as an exclusive class for MapleStory Global, is finally biting the dust after her MapleSea counterpart Zen got removed, which what I believe was already a
I think it's not MapleSea, right? I think it's CMS had Zen, I think.
few years ago. So besides being a fat L for all the Jet mains, everyone else who was using the class for its Legion effect and strong link skill will lose then as well. So let's talk about timelines and what exactly is gonna happen. Somewhere between the summer update and all the way through the winter update, MapleStory Global players will be able to transfer their Jet to any Explorer class, so switching jobs basically, which is, I guess, nice at least. Jet herself will be deleted in early 2024, and you can no longer create her starting today. Wait, what the heck? That's short notice. I guess this was done because of the compensation that everyone who is transferring their Jet will get, since everyone who created and then transfers their Jet will get a compensation regardless of their level, and they...
Honestly, that is kind of weird. They could just say... I guess it's harder for them to do, but they could just let you still create jets and just say you get compensation only for jets that were created before this patch or something. The fact that you can't create them at all anymore, if you're only going to be deleting them like in February of 2024. Now that I think about it, that is kind of weird. It seems like there's better solutions there. This is probably a simple solution for Nexon, but it feels like it would be better to just let people still make it and then just don't give them compensation for the change if you create it
They
after a
probably
date.
want to prevent abuse, I suppose. So each Jet that gets transferred to a different class will get a name change coupon. I'm definitely gonna name my character something like Jet was here or something like that. They'll also get a Jet job default avatar coupon, the space scooter mount, that's always cool, a Jet job symbol cash effect, and traces of Jet, which will reward a 35 all stat, attack, and magic attack link skill that is available for 1 year, and a 6% critical damage Legion block. The Legion block itself only lasts for 30 days, which is kinda short, but okay. I guess the link is nice given the circumstances. Besides those rewards, you'll also get one magnificent growth potion that is...
So right now it sounds like if I were to say something like this, then everyone would say like, oh my god, he's highlighting how amazing it is of the stuff that you're getting when they're removing Jet. That feels like that was a critique levied at me, so I feel like Copperson is, I know he's got that positive YouTuber voice, but it seems like he's really excited about the stuff that you're getting at the expense of the Jet being removed at this point.
100 arcane symbols or 20 sacred
We'll
symbols
see what the rest of the vibe of the video is.
EXP cards that are also all tradable within the world. So that doesn't sound too bad if you didn't really main a Jet and just had a low level one, but if you did, oh boy. So what about the gear and nodes that, for example, Maple has invested a lot of time, resources and money on? Those details are still being worked on, so we'll have to hear about...
I'm just realizing, by the way, I'm watching this video and I'm looking at the gameplay, and we're not looking at the subway game, or we're not looking at magnetic sand, but we're looking at gameplay at the same time. This is doing the same thing. This is why those essay kind of videos about video games just do so well, because you just got gameplay in the background that you're watching. We're basically just getting Twitch streamed right now.
But oh boy, I did not expect this. Jet isn't super popular or anything, but the class still is more popular than Ilium, Xenon, Battlemage, to name a few. And all Jets that aren't transferred won't get any rewards, but they will be changed to a beginner. So if you want an easy high-level beginner, just start leveling your Jet now. No one will be able to tell the difference.
Yeah, I really wonder if they're going to leave that up to actually being a beginner.
Once the change happens. I mean, you can start leveling your Jet if you at least had one before the maintenance.
This character moves in an interesting way.
Well, you know, at least we can still enjoy both Jet and Zen in the Stella Detective story dungeon for now, because that content was actually also removed already in MapleStory Japan, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be removed for Maple Global as well at one point.
Yeah, that's another thing. I'm not sure. That update came from Japan that they were going to remove it. They removed Cellular Detectives, and then the VIP, Alien VIP thing, and one more piece was removed at the same time. Those three. And then they changed what they removed for GMS, thinking like, oh, I guess the content is safe. but what is...
just like
Oh, Monad,
and
yeah, and
Singapore.
Monad.
In some regions where
But like, what is
Zen
really
counterpart
safe
Jet
now at this
was
point,
removed,
huh?
this class was actually changed to Mon-Sun, but it doesn't look like that's happening here. I would actually love to have this class in the game instead if Nexon still wants to support that, but I guess
Mon-Sun,
that's
yeah,
not an
Mon-Sun
option.
would be
That
cool.
class might be removed in the future soon then too. And what about Beastamer or Hayato and Kana? I guess they can't remove Kana because it is like the most created class in the game. But what about the others? Interesting times for MapleStory Global. I still think it's weird to just remove Jet. Like, if they don't want to spend the resources, just say so and leave Jet be. But let me know what you think in the comments. And that was all for today. Thank you so much for watching, and as always...
Yeah, so like at this point, I don't know. I'm trying to see if there's some people some crazy double standards. But at this point, it basically feels... If I watch this video, I try to not be biased at this point. It's like, oh... Jet's getting removed. Sucks if you're a Jet main. I hope not everything is getting removed, but look at all this cool stuff that we're getting as a compensation. It's more like a fact of the matter video, and pretty like short and concise. But I don't feel like Copperson got any like flack over this video, even though this seems to be like the same video that other people have made up to this point. But because it makes an extra one, then suddenly he's like the fucking hero of the people. It's interesting. This was on the removal, right? So this was like probably around the same day I made mine, 13 days ago. Yeah, like the 28th, probably 27th, 28th. And I think, well, his videos always go up earlier because he's a fucking animal. So mine are going up a day later. So that's around the 27th to 28th, yeah. Okay, and when does the other video come out? Cooper. So 20k views 8 hours ago. Why is getting those views? 4 days. 4 days ago. So this is May 6th.
Hey YouTube, Coppersan here. I actually wanted to make a Is It Worth Playing MapleStory in 2023 video, but I feel that there is a need to address the current state of the game first with this video before I make that one, because there are a lot of concerning developments that we need to talk about. MapleStory Global and MapleStory C are both turning 18 years old this month, which is an incredible achievement for any live service game out there, and the game itself is already 20 years old. Now the direction that the game has been going has at sometimes been a bit questionable, and most MapleStory players has learned to work with the hand that they've been dealt, but right now there is a lot of frustration within the community due to some of the regional exclusive changes, like the bigger nerfs to the Comma class last year that had a big impact on players maining that class.
So players are resilient. Their resilience and patience is being tested and most likely taken advantage of. That's probably true. Example, Kana nerfs. That's a good way to score a lot of points.
Right now, there is a lot of frustration within the community due to some of the regional exclusive changes, like the bigger nerfs to the Comma class last year that had a big impact on players maining that class. To give some context, most classes who get nerfed lose maybe 3 to 5% final damage or just regular damage. Kana lost 60% of final damage on some of her skills at max boost node level, and it doesn't matter if that was justified or not because we don't know the balance. We can discuss that for ages, we just don't know. My main issue is that such a big nerf was needed after the skills being in a game like that for over 3 years. Why not change it after 1 month if you check it and you see the balance is really bad, that such a big nerf is justified?
Yeah, but so the take back there for the Connor's timeline and not the size or the scope. So this is already like I think a decent point, like to criticize. And they've said as much. This is right now why they don't want to do like the major revamps anymore, because it's a lot of like focus just on that, and they want to make sure that the overall game is getting helped, not just like a few classes getting major revamps. And also a revamp is basically admitting that your character has been completely out of whack for too long, that it needs to be completely redone to be relevant in the current state of the game, right? So it's better to make small timely adjustments as you're going, and as a result, just keep everything up to date, right? So that's a good argument here, where it's like, if there's such a huge change in damage, that is the result of not adequately following up and keeping in lockstep with what the game requires, or like what the rules of the game are, and what how the characters play within the game, and how that needs to be adjusted. So that system of balance checking that needs to be adjusted so that you don't get these big swings. That's the argument here, which I think is a good argument. But you know that everyone who actually made Kana and all the people who like push this video, that's not what they hear. What they hear is, yeah, Kana shouldn't have been nerfed, and too many people were negatively impacted, and they should revert them. Like that's what people hear, which that's a completely different argument. Because he even says, like, balance here and there. You can discuss about it. The thing is still that Kana's had a huge advantage over literally every other class for many, many years. They were able to fund entire accounts and themselves to extents that were otherwise not even remotely possible and outside of the balance and the scope of the game. That went on for years. And then what ends up afterwards is that you're like angry that you finally have to kind of play the game more among the rules, while you get to keep all of the resources that you've built up over the years and all of the benefits you've garnered from that. You get to keep everything, but your focus is on that now things have gone down a little bit. This ties back into whenever I'm thinking about different regions, different versions of the game, different situations. I feel like people always selectively compare to make the comparison work in their advantage, but you can do that with anything, right? You'd be like, oh, Star Forcing costs twice as much in GMS compared to KMS. Like, that was a big argument before, but we don't get twice as much money. I was like, okay, so therefore that's unfair. Well, is it? That's part of the equation for sure, but which types are we upgrading? Oh, we have upgrades with better base stats that have superior potential of damage giving to your account that KMS can never get access to. So wouldn't it make sense then that we would spend a little bit more on the upgrading front, because our final result of the item is going to be way better even with the same money spent, or with a little bit more money spent, we still come out on top? Doesn't that make sense to maintain somewhat of a balance within the video game? But it seems like that's a conversation that nobody wants to actually have, and that's rather unfortunate.
And remove of spawn boosters after being in the game for years, while simultaneously also keeping them in other regions and not adjusting.
Removing totems. Well, I will just say spawn boosters. That's probably keeping frenzy. I see totems really as a phase that tried to bring people back to the game and keep them for a while, and then as soon as we were like back in the routine of playing, they weaned us off again. Basically just temporary boost all of the gameplay. Something that you must remember as well is before totems, it was very, very common to have like double drop and double EXP weekends, almost to the point where when people logged in and there wasn't an event going on in the weekend, they were like, wait, where's the event? Is something bugged? Because they just assumed that it was every single weekend. There were also way more mega burns for a while, and then they took those away, and then terror burns, and then like bonking and everything became a thing. So again, this is like a comparison of there's always going to be things coming and things going, with the overall goal, hopefully, is to get a certain speed of progressing you through the game that from Nexon's point of view makes you want to play regularly, play a lot, and spend a lot of your money. Hopefully somehow get you into the cash up to swipe that card. And on the other end, hopefully you have enough fun to want to return, but not too much fun. But they want to make you progress through the game so that you stay connected to the game, but not too fast. If you progress too slowly, you get uninterested, you get bored, and then you go play another game. If you progress too quickly, then it's really fun for a little bit longer than too slowly, for sure. But then, you kind of run into walls, progression becomes impossible. You don't want to do the same thing over and over with 15 more characters. You also get bored and you go play something else, right? There's like a balance where the progression makes sense for both parties, for both player and developer. And to adjust that balance, you're going to have to make corrections. And I think that's one of the hardest part of owning a video game. I can't even begin to understand like all of the fucking levers and buttons you need to keep in track. But keeping a game like in that window where it's like fast enough so that people want to play it, and it's not too fast for people to not get bored, and it's not too slow for people to feel like they're not able to make any progress, that is like a huge problem. And that's always going to be a problem. And then there comes the extra argument of you have different regions. Different regions have different people, different cultures. They want different things. We're definitely more instant gratification seeking, right, than a general Eastern market, especially than Korea. So that's why we get a lot more content from our different regions. But as a result, some other systems might not work optimally. I think that's why I like to focus mostly on, because bugs and glitches and stuff like that, again, I'm used to a lot, so that's probably not healthy with how much abuse I'm able to take on that. But that's why I like to focus on general server stability and just game playability overall. Something like storage lag, pet loot lag, those were incredibly horrible. Not being able to CC as many times as you want, not being able to switch characters as much as you want, not being able to enter the cache up whenever you feel like it, and not be lagging your ass off. Right now, like opening the smithing tab, for example, in professions, ardent mill and event maps just being completely unresponsive to input. These are things that I think are, if those things were fixed and those things were stable, I think all those other things for most people would be way easier to kind of like swallow and be like, okay, let's give them a little time to fix it. It's just like it was a perfect storm of all of those things again coming together that really made the bucket overflow, and that made a lot of people think like, yeah, this is some bullshit as bullshit, right? But yeah, again, I see this more as a phase of like trying to get people in and then getting people out again. I think in the grand total, I might be wrong, but how long were totems really around for? Was it like 2.5? Was it 3 years? Something like that. Which for some people is all they ever knew, and I get that. But in the general lifespan of MapleStory, it's like the adolescence, right? It's going from 14 up to 18, right? It's basically totems that's adolescence in a phase in that sense. Zakum arm changes after Savior when the boss mechanics get revamped, yeah. Or just before the boss revamp. It was after Destiny, also after Destiny, but after Savior for sure, yeah. We compare totems lifespan as relative to reboot lifespan, not the whole game. Sure, but then it's about half, right? A little bit less than half. I think we're going into 7 years now of reboot, and the totems. I would have to double check. I don't know if anyone knows exactly when totems come out. Of course, when Kana came out, Kana had boost, right? But they dictated the meta for too long. And here comes like the difference in philosophies, not so much in balancing like Copperson says here, but I think the philosophy more in like, is slower better versus is faster better. There's a lot of people, especially in the Western market, who are just like, I want a lot of money instantly. I want to get all the levels. I want to get all the gear. I want to be instantly done. It seems that people want to play a game with the goal in mind to be done as quickly as possible so they can go play something else, but they can like tick off the box that they completed it in some regard. Whereas I'm always looking at just, the journey rather than the destination. Always looking like, does the process make sense? Is the progression fair? Is it enjoyable on the way there? And no matter how far you get, like that's not even really relevant. So you're always going to, is it bump heads or knock heads on, making it slower to progress is worse. Why? Because slower is worse. You just have to agree to disagree. You can't really go anywhere there. Slower can be better. Slower can be worse. It depends on how you do it, right? But it's definitely something that the community was not happy with, because progression slowdown equals bad, or Kana getting nerfed equals bad because I'm a Kana, now I'm weaker, I can't do the same things. That being said, where the Kana is now, I believe the argument is pretty strong in favor of the fact that the Kana is actually in a really good position now. Really strong funded Kanas who got to that point because they had a huge advantage can still do crazy good things. They're still very, very solid. solo bossing is not as insanely OP as it was before. It's still good. I would still call them above average character. Definitely not by a crazy amount, but they're probably still above, like, I would say probably about like 20 other classes. And then especially if you put them together with the right team composition, they're still incredibly potent. The one thing, of course, that's changing more and more is that certain bosses cannot be bound anymore. So the bind advantage is removing, but you've got your barriers, you've got your I always forget the name of the skill now. Of course, domain, but that's not the one I was thinking about. You've got your your little shield that makes you not prone to the Foxfire. Like, your Foxfire is just reading the description of Foxfire alone makes most characters be like, okay, that's incredibly broken. The only character that has something that's close to that, I believe, is Shade. But like, Foxfire as a skill is ridiculously strong, especially in higher level boss fights that can be a total clusterfuck and very hard to learn. It can have a small downside, of course, like with Valhalla and with other stuff, but it is a huge benefit, and I think most kind of mains will agree, hopefully. If they're not too, of course, if you have eight endgame kanas that are all liberating, getting hit way harder than some other people. But I think they're in a good position now. I do agree, though, that it should have been more gradual. The weaning off as well of spawn increase was gradual, but maybe not as gradual as it could have been. But if you guys remember, totems also changed a lot. In the beginning, when totems came out, they were exactly the same as frenzy totems. That give like way more spawn and faster than what the totems did. Then we had the fury totems for a while, right? The white and red ones. And then we had a nerf into wild totems that wasn't actually a nerf, but they thought it was because they didn't know their own code. And then the accessibility was a thing, and then the price of it was a thing, and then frenzy, and then kana changing, and then the amount changing, and then the Night Ghost guide changes, right? But eventually they weaned us off of it. So if you're looking at the grander picture, it's also not like we always had insane spawn increase and then suddenly it was gone. It was always like already on the way down, and for me it was already really evident that eventually it was going to be gone. Now, I'm not saying I like that. Totems were like the only thing that really motivated me to train. Right now it's hard for me to actually get up and actually make some gains, but it does make sense to me more for the sense of like progression, player binding to your game. But if everyone disagrees, then they should probably do something about it, right? Because otherwise the end goal of getting people to swipe the card and make money, that's not going to be successful, and that's ultimately what they want to do.
Adjusting the base spawn rate after removal or anything else like that.
Yeah, the adjusting base spawn rate is the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my fucking life. The amount of people who were actually toting that just gave me actual brain cancer. People were like, oh, totems remove. Okay, but I'm okay with totems being removed as long as they increase the base spawn rate to the same or more than the totems. It's like, well, then why the fuck would they remove the totems? If you think they're going to remove the totems, there's a reason for that, and that's because they want to slow the progression back down to what it was before. If they're just going to increase the base spawn rate, like the adjusted argument of that you can kind of do something with is, yes, it feels better to kill a lot of monsters than to just sit around and wait for monsters to respawn, especially since we've grown like a generation of MapleStory players that is used to more like lazy training, right? Or farming, as people want to call it, where you just stand in one spot, look to the left, look to the right, kind of like blow everything up, right? That became like the standard of how to gain levels. First of all, I think that's probably good to not want that as the main way to gain levels. You should be able to do that if you want to, but it should come as a downside where it's significantly slower than the other ways of doing it. Whereas I think with totems, it was too close. Someone was literally just standing in one spot, holding one button, or like hopping to the left, hopping to the right. That's it. Was able to get insane rates that would rival that of anyone doing some crazy over-the-top training, especially for going towards level 300. So I think from that point of view, it made total sense. The only argument that I think, again, to go back to that, makes sense is like standing around for 7 seconds in the same map waiting for monsters to respawn where you can one-shot is horrible. It's not good, especially not if you're used to that not being the case. And then increasing the spawn rate while, of course, simultaneously decreasing the XP rate per monster and the drop rate and everything. So the rates are roughly where you want them to be in terms of experience and in terms of gains. But at the same time, it will look and feel like you can still do the lazy training. That would be something that I think would have been totally fine. Again, whether people are more the first part or the second part of the argument depends on the previous thing that I said. But the brainless argument of just like, oh yeah, remove totems, that's fine, but just then give a spawn rate passively at all times. It's like, well, then why would they ever remove totems? Why do you think you're needing a buff on that, right? They're obviously trying to take a step back. That was a great one to hear.
And I don't want to drag a dead horse, but if something is broken in your live service game that you keep checking, that you keep updating, it's so broken that it has to be removed, that it shouldn't be in the game for years. Because if it has such a big impact on the balance, it just shouldn't be there, at least not for that long. Last few weeks...
I don't know if that's a reference to... You said 4 years. If that's a reference to totems, then I would have to, counter that. Maybe he does in his updated video. If it's so broken, then why keep it for 4 years? So, like I said before, I don't think it was kept for 4 years, right? They were always systematically, that's the word, systematically breaking it down and decreasing it to slowly but surely wean people off. There, of course, is like that last part where you have to wrap it up, pull it off like a bandage, and that's never going to feel good. But I think as a general rule, I think most people recovered pretty well. The people who didn't play much at all, who felt restricted to totems, which was a way bigger group than people in Reddit and whatever thought. There's a large group of people who doesn't feel, and again, I'm not excusing that, because saying like, oh, I use a totem, now I feel like I have to train for 2 hours when you are only going to train a total of like 10 hours per month anyway, that's really bad, and you shouldn't think that way. That's not helpful. You should just, if you're not even going to use all your totems, use a totem for 45 minutes, use one for 30 minutes, use one for an hour, do whatever you need to do. But like letting the length of that item determine whether you should do it or not. I'm not saying that's a good rule, but if a lot of people feel that way and that's a majority, then they're going to make adjustments for that majority, that if they bring in a majority of the money, even if you disagree with that personally, and that's just something you sadly just have to deal with. The second thing was the people who are training all the way up to 300, the amount of extra EXP they get and how much it speeds up their travel to level 300 is not that impacted by the amount of totems they have, because the total amount of hours they train, the hours of that which are totemed versus not totemed is such a small percentage. So for those people, it didn't really make any huge difference either, just slightly slowed them down. Again, there's some floating theories, and there's definitely a lack of communication from Nexon for all of these things, and transparency on a whole decision-making process. I think the most viable theory is that's just that KMS probably didn't want GMS to be like the first level 300s over them when we were supposed to be 6 months behind. But then why frenzy totems? They cost a lot of money at the time. You can just take them away. Well, couldn't they? Question mark. Maybe. No, they're definitely going to hit level 300 first now, and the ways are. Totems. Oh yeah, and the other thing with the totem removal, but this is what I said before as well. The totem removal was stupid at the time and how they did it, because they already announced totems as they're not going to work after level 300. So everyone was already mentally prepared, like, okay, we're eventually going to have to say goodbye to these things, but at least we're going to have them until level 300. And then the other thing was they had that announcement that those things were going to be removed, like in the patch, and that was announced a week or two, I think, before the patch. And then on the day of the patch, it was like, oh, by the way, we're also removing totems. And it just like shoehorned that in. So it really felt like a last minute financial decision or something of like, oh, we need to stress, we want to save a little bit of money on servers, so we're going to lower the server load by getting rid of all the spawn enhancements. So we'll just squeeze that in so we can make like our quarterly budget or something. That's really what it felt like to me. So it really felt like a financial decision, like top down, forced in there, rather than something that was discussed. Well, even though it was going on the way there, right, with whittling down, it didn't feel like it was something that was planned out and strategized for the good of the balance of the progression of the game at all. Didn't feel like that. So there is definitely a lot of stuff to be angry at there, but I feel like the winning arguments there of like totem removal bad because now level go up slower, a lot seem to just come down to that, which I think are very weak arguments that I wouldn't champion those.
So, Nexon has been on a bit of a hot streak with even more controversial changes, with the biggest being the announcement of the removal of an entire class, and big nerfs to event stores that both came out of nowhere. This creates two huge issues that I think aren't talked about enough, so I want to share my thoughts in this video, and warn Maples of how Nexon is managing this game at the moment. The first issue is that Nexon just heavily adjusts and removes regional exclusive content without any regard of its player base, heavily nerfing regionally exclusive classes and now removing a class from the game. To me, this shows a severe lack in long-term planning and assigned resources to regions like MapleStory Global and MapleStory C. If a class is super broken, it should be fixed. Jet has been in the game for close to a decade, and now it's being removed because it breaks things. Then why is it allowed to break things for over a decade already? Now, I'm not a coder, and I'm pretty sure that working with a 20-year-old code base is probably hell, but everything that is broken can be fixed with enough time, even if you have to rebuild it from the ground up. But Nexon does not seem to want to commit any resources into fixing what's broken. The same goes with the flame...
Yeah. I mean, that's why I didn't do a reaction video initially. That's just like disagreeing on the... It's just a disagreement, right? This is probably like a conversation somewhere in a boardroom where it's just like, okay, how much is it going to cost to get this character up to date? What are our plans for the future for other content and for other classes? How much is it going to cost us? How many people are playing this? I assume that none of these decisions are made like, fuck GMS, fuck Jet players. We don't give a shit about those. We just want our money. I like money. You can pretend like that's what the discussion was. Maybe it was. I guess we never know. But you read like that was a discussion, or it was a discussion where we need to save X amount of money. This percentage of our development is going towards something that is servicing like 0.5% of the total player base. This doesn't make sense congruently. How many people are we hurting with this? I feel like every single decision you make in a video game hurts some group of people to an extent. Is this a large hurt to that group of people? Yes. Is it a really big group of people that's like very negatively affected? No. At the end of the day, like, you have to do some maths and you have to make some unhappy you have to make some decisions that are going to make people unhappy, right? That's inevitable. Would it be better to just fix the class and just have a solid... Yeah. Would it be better to fix the code for the entire game, which is giant spaghetti code, and have an actual solid fucking working code base that probably helps a lot with server lag and with server instability, with the problems with porting over content from different regions and all of that? Yes, definitely. How much is that going to cost? Everything has a price tag. And like, of course I would wish it would have been done differently, but you can't pretend like there's no situation in which that is probably the best, that could be the best solution, right? The Fairy Heart price being $4 bill. I want to double check. Orange Mushroom. What is this event called again? What are we doing? I'm a MapleStory streamer. I should know this. Momentary. That is not how you write that. Momentary. Yeah, we're just going to be... Yeah, there was $2 bill here. I guess I'm repeating myself again, but the Fairy Heart, of course, I think one of the big problems with the Fairy Heart is with the flames, the values, the costs were also a bit adjusted, but the flames have different costs for reboot and non-reboot, which, you know, as long as the idea behind what those values should be actually has some kind of foundation, that could be a good thing. If they just put up two random numbers, then that's stupid. But the Fairy Heart, I believe, is the same price. I'm pretty sure is the same price in reboot and in non-reboot. So if the economy in non-reboot, which it is, taking a huge problem in huge influx of botted mezzo and that kind of stuff, it would make sense for the price there to be higher. The average income in GMS for players, especially early on, which is the people that are most likely going to be buying the heart, is way higher than in KMS, and I believe Copperson even goes into that because of the boss crystal value for for lower level bosses actually being beneficial for GMS. The price being higher there makes sense. How much should it be exactly, and what is the math behind it? This is always what I would like to see. I would just like to see the numbers. Like, how did you come to 4 bill? Give us some kind of transparency there on like, hey, this is the expected income in KMS of a player of this thing. We checked it in GMS. We saw that the income was actually pretty close to double. So we increased the price from 2 to 4 bill. And they made they made an extra post as well, saying that they were going to track how many people are buying items for Mesos in the Meso shop, since they are changing the values, to see if they should adjust it more in the future, to see if there's a significant decrease in people purchasing it, or if it's around the same, to see if they need to adjust it somewhat. But I hope that number isn't pulled from out of somebody's ass. I hope there was a meeting. I hope there were some maths done. It would be really cool if you could see those maths though and be like, hey, this is the expected income. This is actually the income. This is why we increased the value by this percentage of the item to make it fair and to keep it on track for basically indexation onto inflation of money, right? If you feel like people in GMS Reboot have like, struggle making mesos or something, I don't know what to tell you. Again, I've been playing for a long ass time, and it's a long build up for sure, but you can make insane amounts of money. Mesos, of course, not real money, but like mesos. Although some people might think that the Beam Brigade members make thousands of dollars a month. Even if the number is pulled out of an ass, it might be, it might be a guesstimation that needs to be adjusted later. But again, I would like to see transparency on that point, where it's like, where did that number come from, and where are you doing it, and how are you planning to adjust it? What is the expected number, etc. But to that extent, they don't share. We don't even know the tier-up rates of cubes actually. So so rip. Yes, very hard. And then talking about Sweetwater stuff.
Transfer change in Commercy. This came out of nowhere and has been in the game for years. If it was such a big issue, why wasn't it addressed earlier? To me, it's...
So I feel like he's making the same argument like 5 times now. If something was such a big issue, then why was it in the game for that long? It's because it's a constant balancing act of what do you leave in the game, what do you not leave in the game. Give us something extra to draw more people into the game, make us stronger, get us to... and again, like, I'm not condoning any of this. I think this is like psychological warfare with your time and your money of the highest order. But this is what video gaming is in like the 21st century. It's like, how can we make it so that people want to play our game all the time, and then give us all of their money? Like that's essentially what gaming is in 2020, in 2023, or like in the 21st century in general, especially in the 20s. And again, I don't think that's good, but that's just what it is. So if they give us something to pull us back in, give us some content from a different region, for example, lead us to some extra damage, and then let's say there is actually a small issue with it, but the issue isn't enough to really hit the content just yet, because it's like working on getting people to play, and they can see how many people go to the content, they can see how many people are doing Commercy voyages, and then suddenly they see, okay, well, we see fewer people are doing Commercy voyages, people are actually using like the Dawn accessories and stuff like that more, because those came over from KMS. So now we can look at the content that maybe has some issues and some unintended purposes in GMS, and we can like nerf them a little bit to make sure that there's still something that we can keep in the game, as long as they don't interfere with the gameplay, but that is slightly off balance, so we can like take that off a little bit to make sure that it's not overpowered. I don't think that line of thought is completely implausible, so why is something allowed to be a certain amount of time in the game? Because it was serving its purpose for a while, and after a while it's not serving its purpose anymore, or the amount of problems that it's causing is overflowing, or is taking out of balance the amount of benefits it's giving for the game. So at that point it gets axed. And yeah, why is that after 2 years? Why is it after 4 years? Why is it after a decade? It just depends on when it's tilting it out of, everything has a breaking point. Would you? The question is like, would you think the game had been better off if Commercy was, or if transposing was never implemented the way it was? And this goes back to what I've always been talking about the last 7 years: is your baseline, right? Do you see your baseline as, I have everything the best I can possibly get in this game. That's my baseline. Because then everything that gets slightly taken away, gets slightly nerfed, or gets removed, that is going to be seen as your baseline gets chipped away, and now you're left with like 98% or 95% or 94%. And that'll always feel like you're not working, you're not firing on all cylinders, you're not living up to your potential, right? Now the problem is, what my philosophy more is what is 100%? I think 100% is how strong you are expected to realistically be in the Korean server of the game with the same amount of time investment. And I think with that as your baseline, GMS is probably operating at something like 130 to 135% of baseline. So everything that gets chipped away is definitely a reduction from that 135. But if you're going down from 135 to 134% because of the flame not carrying over, or down to at totems, I would say we were probably operating at closer to 200%. But that getting cut down to 120 is not good. That does not feel good, sorry, and is a huge removal. But you're still above that baseline of 100%. But again, this comes back to me playing this game forever. Like, again, I've played over 14 separate years, like a chunk of 7 years, another chunk of 7 years now. Over 30,000 hours in this game, way too much. I know, don't do it. So I'm able to see like where we were at with like growth and stuff. And yeah, if you're at that mindset where anything that is possible in the game, it should be something you instantly have access to, and you're seeing that as the baseline. Or like a new event comes out somewhere in another region, it's like, oh, we'll have that one day, you know, and then the event comes and then it's slightly tweaked for our region, and it's like, why did they nerf it? It's like, they didn't nerf it. It wasn't in the game yet, so it couldn't be nerfed. It's like when an item goes up for sale for the first time and they say it's on sale, it's only 19 instead of 25. How is that a sale? It was never for sale before, so it's not on sale. This is just the original price, right? Like, but in that later case, like you kind of get they're trying to play you, right? The company's trying to play you, but the first time you're playing yourself because you already set up an expectation that was never promised to you, and then you get disappointed in the company, but you should be disappointed in you're setting expectations that weren't put down there. Yeah, I'd say closer to 150%. Yeah, I kind of pulled it out of my ass, but we're definitely over the 125 mark. I'm not sure if we're at the 150 mark. So yeah, reduction still above 100%. Baseline, I think, try to keep a healthy balance there. Mercy change, transposing. The other thing, and the major outpouring with the transposing that I just want to mention, is that a lot of people are like, oh, transposing is dead now. That's absolutely fucking stupid. Transposing the flame and carrying the flame over was just one of the 4 ways or 5 ways in which transposing was a good reason and why it was advised. The flame was one of the more easy and visible ones. But basically that's a loss for most people of about 60 to 70 flame score on the item. But it's still worth it to transpose. The content is still worth it. The equips are still worth it. The main value is in the backups that you can now realistically and reliably get, rather than being full reliant on RNG with very low drop rate, depending on your drop rate on your character for the whole duration of the other items that are alternatives, right? Transposing is still by and far like a good idea to do. Anyone who said like, oh, it's dead now, or said it to other people, like you're not helping. Other alternatives have gotten closer, obviously, but that doesn't mean now that means it's not worth it anymore. You need to give people the information and need to give people the alternatives, and then based on what they want to do, what they like, and where they want to go, they can make their own decisions. So telling people like, this is different now, therefore bad, this is different now, therefore good. Just give them the balance, you know. Transposing thing is funny to me. Essentially, it didn't change much. The people that were going to transpose before the change most likely will, regardless. I don't think they. Well, I think the people who will transpose before were the people who already had a pet mark, or people already had a dominator and were already flaming it for that reason. And the people who hated the content probably shouldn't do it, but not because transposing the flame is gone, but because you shouldn't do content that you hate, right?
It seems like there is no one checking how classes or content work, and every time someone does check, they see like, oh my god, this is broken and bugged, we should just remove it, instead of taking their time.
I think they probably don't check enough. But again, this goes back to what I think is probably the best critique of all of this, and that was done also about the Kana, is like it seems like it's just not planned properly. I think it seems that when things get released, they are not tested enough. It seems that they are not following up on potential problem areas quickly enough, and they might not be making the adjustments fast enough. I think these are all great critiques and definitely things that need to be internally checked to see if their internal QA process and all of that shouldn't be like revised tremendously. But again, these are never the general problems that are raised by people in the community. It's just like Kana nerf's bad, totem removal suck because now I can't do anything. I made a gajillion more monies with the boss crystal change, but the fairy heart going up 2 bill is completely impossible. Like it seems like there's no nuance for like the overall picture, and it's just like number go down bad, sorry, number go up good. That feels like that's just the limitation of the critiques, and that makes it so hard to engage with.
Time to fix it. And this, if it's broken, just remove it way of working is a horrible mentality to have in a live service game, because the players lose trust every time something is removed that they spend time and resources on. Why should I invest in my character if it suddenly gets heavily nerfed without any follow-up or announcements? Or worse, what if my class suddenly gets changed to a different class? Why spend money or time into something that can be changed on a whim? Why is Nexon even releasing this content if they don't want to do the upkeep? In my opinion, if you make a commitment to add something big to the game like...
I think the main thing is that we're just another region that they can just dump the content that was already developed into, and I think they're just recouping of R&D costs, which is of course not good. I mean, I guess I have to fucking qualify all of this. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that's a thing that you would want to do, but it's pretty obvious that that's probably what's going on, is that there's just they've got another region. They're trying to see if they can double dip into their investments. And with minor adjustments, with just translations and with just adjustment of code to the other region, they can like squeeze it out for some more money. That seems to be, yeah. That seems to be why.
Chunk of content, there also needs to be a commitment to do upkeep, and this is completely lacking from Nexon at the moment. You can't just release stuff and say a few years later, like, oh, actually, I don't want to deal with this anymore, so we're just gonna remove it. One thing that I also really don't understand is from a
I mean, I think you can do that. But I'm trying to see if there's a good way to do that, or if it's always going to feel sucky. But I think you can do that, but there's been some content that they released okay, I will say a few things. There was like some, what was it, like renegade content? Do you guys remember this? There was like a little PQ, and then you had to defend, and you could also like build towers, and there was like some stuff that I think you could get nodes there, but I think it was super buggy, and it would give you EXP, and people found a way to exploit it, so it gave like a fuck ton of EXP, and they couldn't fix it, so they just removed it again after like a month or something. I think you can release content that you think works properly, and then someone finds an exploit and you can't patch it, and then you remove the content again. I think there are legitimate reasons why that could happen. Or, like I said before, you introduce something because you're trying to lure people back into the game with some shiny carrot on a stick that you got from another region. People come back to the game, and even though it's kind of overpowered, you leave it in the game for a while so that people get used to playing the game again, and then you remove it again. Do I think that's ethical? No. Do I think that games should do that? No. Is it what Nexon does? It seems like it is what they do. Yeah, I mean, it's basically like getting a huge, like in the supermarket, sometimes you get like a huge discount on like branded products that supermarkets will actually sell to you on a loss, right? But this is to get you to the store, so you buy another bunch of other products, and then they make a larger profit margin on the other products, and as a result, they end up making more money by selling something and doing a promotion and selling something on a loss, right? That's essentially what's happening here as well, is that they've got the shiny product, they get to lure you in. They are kind of hurting on that because they're giving you actually too much progression on that. So there's a little bit of loss of money on the end, but they're trying to get you into the habit of coming back to the store. Then they end that sale. Then they axe that part of the content. But now you've gotten into the habit of coming to the store, of spending your money in the store, right? Of playing in the game. And again, do I think that's a good thing? No. I hate that we went from commercials and advertisements, went from, hey, this is a product. This can do a good thing. If you're interested in this, this is what it does. This is where you can find it. Please buy our product. It went from that to, hey, do you feel like a worthless sack of shit without having this product? You should buy it so you can feel fulfilled as a human being and stop being so fucking miserable. Not with those words, but because of understanding more of human psyche, it really has just become psychological manipulation of consumers, in both video games and in products that try to make you feel like you should be wanting this thing, and if you get it, then you'll definitely start feeling good. Don't worry about it. Just do the thing that we tell you to do, and you'll feel amazing. Again, I would, I would vote for like a heavier government intervention in terms of like what is ethical, unethical business practices when it comes to advertising, when it comes to running video games, when it comes to selling a product in general to a consumer. I'd be in favor of all of that stuff. But yeah, until that stuff happens, it's going to be more like, hey, this company does this thing this way. Do I agree with that? You could definitely fight and try to change it. I think this whole movement is good. I think people communicating, people telling other people what they feel about things, I think is a good thing. But you have to be prepared to understand that maybe when you look around, 90% of people disagree with you, and you're just not going to get anything done, right? Or the movement is actually way bigger than you thought, and you're actually getting 90% of people with you, and then the company should be like, oh. So that's why I did this whole timeline thing, because we did this before with the boycott, because this game was just completely unplayable. The questions are always the same. It's about more timely updates, better QA, more transparent communication on large topics. It's about better server stability, game stability. Those are like the main 4 points, I guess I would say. I guess those first two or maybe three are kind of are heavily connected. But those seem to be the ongoing problems, things. But I think the realization for the player base hopefully is growing as well, is that when something seems too good to be true, it usually is, right? Like the amount of money people could make in Bye Bye Station after training a character for like 3 days and then just holding down their spacebar while they were watching anime to make like billions a day. Like that should feel like too good to be true. That should feel like 220% baseline. That shouldn't feel like you're 100% because because it just isn't, right? But again, maybe this is just kind of experience from me from playing over a long period of time and seeing that more in context with other things. But yeah, I mean, good luck finding another game dev or another video game where everyone is happy with their dev. Everyone hates their dev. Everyone hates everyone. I'm not saying that we should accept everything, but there are some aspects of this that I think are just the norm, that we should try to fight in other ways, but it won't happen in this way. But I think there's definitely a list of things that we can be like, this is what we need. This is what kind of change that we need from you. And that we, hopefully as a community, as everyone can get behind and start work on. I think it is ready for, someone said, boycott number 2, Electric Boogaloo. It is probably necessary because I feel like we have slid down in terms of game stability and overall play enjoyment. Like going into the cash up at this point is more than a 50-50 crash for me. It's ridiculous. While at the same time we're supposed to be playing boss mules and we're supposed to get our buff freezers from the cash up for another 6 months until they make those permanent and finally get rid of that god awful mechanic of having to go in there and pay your 5 mil, otherwise rip your 1 hour guild skills. But we're gonna have to get together on something, and I think it makes more sense for now to come together on something that we can definitely make a difference on in the short term, and then try to expand that to more stuff in the future, rather than, giving into the we should have totems because then we can level faster. That's like a fight that just is completely unwinnable, All right, we're almost 4 minutes into the 10-minute video. We're doing well.
From my perspective, your reputation is very important, especially when you want people to commit long-term to your live service game. However, all the recent actions that Nexon has with MapleStory are doing the exact opposite. I don't know who greenlights these changes, but they seem to completely disregard how players react to this and view Nexon as a whole. Like saying Nexon releasing...
Yeah, my argument with this is reactions and reactions. You have Reddit and you have the MapleStory Discord, as I think probably the two most outspoken and fighting with Nexon, which is good. We need those. We need those people to be outspoken and to be doing their thing. But the question is that like 5% vocal minority of the game? Are they representing 5 to 10% of the people, or are they representing 85% of the community? Right. What I think is that there's definitely a large group of people who think that everyone agrees with them, but actually they don't. I wouldn't be surprised if like 80% of the money, the revenue, and the player hours in total come from people who only play for about a month to a month and a half every summer and winter update, and spend money then on maybe a VACPAT and on looking cute and a bunch of NX, and then just don't look at the game again for another 5 months. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. In which case, back to situation before where, you feel like everyone is agreeing with you because of the people who are playing like in the lull in between the big summer events, but then you look around and you find actually that most of the people are not even engaged enough with the game to be in the subreddit, to be in the Discord, and to actually be part of that conversation. And if those people bring in the blunt of the money, why would they harm their experience throughout the game and their progression, the speed of their progression, in favor of the small minority who feel like they represent way more people than they actually do, right? We don't have that data. So it's really hard to say if we're just being ignored because they don't want to listen to us, or we're being ignored because we're just not important enough to listen to. We don't have a big enough amount of people on our side,
This is a new game. Would you play it if your main class in one of their games just got deleted? I don't think so. I think you'll even tell your friends to not play any Nexon games because of your bad experience.
I think MapleStory is actually the same as anime for me. Like a lot of animes I'm still... Well, actually, I haven't watched One Piece in a long time, but like I'm following up on because I'm just like so invested at this point. I don't know if it's necessarily fallacious sunk cost, but it is definitely sunk cost, which, can be fallacious or not. But like certain animes, like if I would start watching them today, I would see like 5 minutes of the first episode and never continue. But once you're in 1,000 episodes, then, or you're in 15,000 hours and you've got all of that baggage, you can take it back to like, oh, it's better than then. It's maybe a little bit worse than then, but it's better than then, better than then. Like overall, there's like a general increase, or there's stay in the lane, upwards trend of certain things. Or there's a downward trends of certain things, but it's not as extreme as to like, completely dip out. But would you advise it to people? Dude, the best part about this game is when you fucking crash and then you get the pop-up of like, would you recommend this game to a friend? Well, right now, no, never, ever.
Now, it's no secret that Nexon's biggest
not a
profits
good
are
time
coming
to
from
give me
Korea and
the...
China. But at some point, I'm wondering why even publish their games in their West if this is how they're dealing with them, as they have no regard of the impact of their actions on their brand.
I am super confused, and I have been for a while, why MapleStory, and I don't know of any other Nexon games, but why MapleStory in general was actually live in the West for this long. I feel like they were not turning a profit for like the first 14 years or something that MapleStory was out. I truly didn't understand why they were going for that long and why we were still... I expected MapleStory in global to be like completely... It was already kind of on the way out at like 2010, 2011-ish, but like when 2012, like Big Bang in 2013, I felt like nobody was playing the game anymore. I don't understand why the servers were still up at that point, honestly. Have you ever made them a profit? Yeah, we started making a profit, I think, during COVID because of the amount of people at home with the stimmy money from the American government. We're like throwing it all at a Gachapon and at NX because they were all at home playing video games. That's when we finally turned a profit for the first time. So that must have been, I think it was around the second half of 2021. No, 22. COVID-19, so the early 20 was like February, March of 2020 is when the quarantine started. But I think it was either late 2020 or early 2021. That's when like Twitch numbers, like viewer numbers also like tripled, like year to year. That's when I think they turned a profit for the first time. But it's crazy how were they really investing for 14, 15 years to make their first profit? Like, I don't know. They must not have been losing that much, but that whole thing is also a mystery to me. I don't understand.
Or their game, or their players, and they're just not respecting
that grand
it.
strategy.
I'm not talking about the Next in America or MapleStory local teams. This is only about what development decisions are being made. I do not want to be in their shoes. I head into work one day, see a nice email waiting for me that I have to announce the deletion of a class. That does not sound like a fun Monday to me. So issue number 1, Nexon is making so many bad choices with the content removal and adjustments in MapleStory Global and C, and they just don't want to...
So the question is, are they bad decisions, or are they the decisions made with with a bad structure up to it, right? You can make the same decision twice, and one time the decision can be made poorly, and one time the decision can be made well, and you can make the exact same decision, right? It seems like, I think what we want to focus on, it seems like the decision-making process is completely untransparent, doesn't seem to make sense to us, and it's surrounding things that, decrease that baseline, or sorry, not decrease your baseline, but decrease your percentage of performance in the game and your speed of progression. And as a result, is gonna already bump into a whole lot of ridicule and criticism. So if you combine that with being untransparent, seemingly not really seeming to make sense, that combination is going to make people upset, understandably. Especially because if you tell people like, oh, we're going to double the amount of money you get, nobody wants to know why you're doing that. They're just like, shut up and let me enjoy that double money, right? But if you're going to be like, oh, we're going to cut in half the amount of money that you're going to get, well, why the fuck, right? Like, tell me at least why. Or say like, oh, we want to get to, because of these reasons, we need to get to like half the amount of income over a year. So we're going to start like reducing it by, I don't know, by like 10% per month, like gradually, whatever the fucking maths work out. So that you guys can slowly, get used to that or something like that. Just if they were just transparent with that and they had actual good decisions there, what it makes it feel like more and more is that a lot of these decisions are made last minute. They're just top down. There's no real structure behind it. There's just someone somewhere that decided like, hey, these things should just happen like that, and then snip, and then they're suddenly in the game, and someone's caught holding the bag, the person who actually makes the post. But someone somewhere should have gone better in that. And that's definitely a critique to Nexon that can be levied. But again, let us focus on that rather than number down bad. Let's have more substance. Let's have more built arguments. And let's have like a stronger foundation that we can also go towards Nexon with like, these are the things that we want, rather than why you make me weaker. I think deleting a class is definitely... I think that's enough by itself. You don't really need to add a whole lot more than that. I think it's very different from having like a shiny carrot on a stick of like, oh, transposing is going to give you this much extra stat versus here's a class you can play. Sure, like, it's going to give you extra legion effect and a link skill, but the main thing there being like, it's also a whole ass class. Removing that is in a different wheelhouse, in my opinion.
Spend any time or money on the region, which hurts their brand and makes their players lose trust with every bad change they make, for the sake of what? Having one or two less developers on the team? They do not see... Yeah,
it hurts their brand. Again, the thing is just like big picture money. I don't know that. Let's say that you delete a class and it hurts your brand and you lose, let's say that you instantly, I don't know if that will happen, but let's say you instantly lose 10% of your player base because of that decision. Actually, let's say that you lose 20% of the people who care a lot about that decision. How many people care a lot about that decision? Maybe that's only like, maybe that's 10% of the player base, right? So let's say you lose 2% of your total player base because of that decision. Now, let's say that the amount of money that you gain, first of all, for developing the game more easily, all of the turnover times, all of the dev hours that go into just fixing this one class is decreased by, I don't know, like 5% or something, whatever the fuck their thing was. Let's say the amount of money saved from that, plus the overall then redistribution of the budget towards hopefully making the game more stable, all of that actually makes a whole bunch of people who are like in between maybe playing the game, maybe that makes like 10% of people play the game more. And the 10% is of the 80% of the people, 90% of the people who didn't really care as much. So now you have 9% more there. So now it's like, it really sucks for the 2% that you lost, but now you gain 9%, percentages off of percentage points, right? But now you end up at 107 percentage points, so now you like gain net 7% player base. And you, because you reallocated where money goes. So I'm not saying that that's exactly the math, and not saying that's exactly the perfect situation behind it, but that is possibly what is going on. And yeah, it's an unpopular situation. It's definitely not, I don't think it's something that should have been done. But at the end of the day, you're looking at the overall product and the service that you're providing, right? And sometimes you have to make shitty decisions like that.
seem to be committed whatsoever to publish in the West, which is quite crazy to me, and also makes me wonder why should you even spend time or money on your game if there's no commitment from
I
the
mean, we are a
developer.
private server.
Issue
We're
number
a
two
test
is the
server
recent
for
Meso and event store
KMS,
changes. The
definitely.
prices of the items were doubled without any real explanation why. Live service games make these changes for two reasons.
Yeah, Mystical Cubes going to 1 mil makes absolutely no sense. I mean, they are really good. Again, if you look objectively at the value of these items, I would look at, is a Fairy Heart worth 4 bill every day of the week? Is a Mystical Cube worth 1 mil? By itself, yes. Compared to how many you can get from other sources, fuck no. Never in any stage of the game. Not even early game. No. Like, is Fairy Heart worth 4 bill? Probably not early, but starting at mid game, yes. Late game, fuck yes. End game, abso-fucking-lutely yes. The flames, again, by themselves, is a Karma Black Flame worth 750 mil? Like, how much you have to do for... How much you have to do? It's basically... So, like, 10 bossing mules, like, your money, you're making, like, 22.5 bill. You can buy, like, 30 of these every week from your boss money, but everything is going to flames. Is that worth it? Probably in like end game, you could kind of see that maybe being worth it, but for all the other stages, that doesn't make any sense. And Eternals, because you can't keep, that's nah. And why is it mainly not worth it? Right, because we have a 1 to 3 to 5 ratio roughly on the value of flames, and 750 for Eternal Flame would make sense. If 500 for the Karma Eternal Flame, that's about that's 3. That's 1.5, right? So it's like going for 3 to 5, roughly 3 to 4.5, 3 to 5, a little bit more on the top end. But that means that a powerful flame should be worth around a third of a Karma Eternal Flame, which would be 166 mil. How much are they in Reboot? 9. So they're not just off by a little bit, they're off by 1.5 orders of magnitude, right? And this is why these numbers don't make any sense. Again, objectively, you could make arguments in certain stages of the game where these items, like Black Flames, should someone really be using Black Flames if they're not in endgame? Probably not. Are they worth that much in endgame? Arguably, maybe. I don't know. You could make some arguments with how much money people are making in Reboot. It's probably still high. I'd probably only go up to... I'd probably go up to like 250. Let's say that you can buy 100 of those every month. If you dedicate all of your resources just to flaming, you could buy 100 Eternal Reboot Flames a month. I don't know. I probably would never do it over like 250 to maybe 300. And then Eternal Flames, yeah. Should they cost that much? They could. They're only marginally better than Powerful Flames, so who should really be buying these? Someone who has way too much fucking money. So how much should they cost? Way too much, right? Are Powerful Flames right now, for what they give, too cheap? You could definitely make that argument. I could probably drop like a chart where you could do like, oh, we're just doubling the price on Powerful Flames. And if you have the maths for it, I wouldn't even... think that wouldn't be completely unthinkable. Would it be a popular decision? Fuck no. If you do that, would you need like really good motivation, a really good plan, and a really good build up and arguments on why you're doing it? Yes. Will Nexon ever have that? Doesn't seem like it. Therefore, will a decision like that ever come across in anything other than a negative light? No. That's the main problem. Luyoyo TV, what's up? Pog. Yo, welcome. Say welcome to all the Raiders, chat. Should be like a 9 mil, 100 mil, 250 mil. If you look at the maths, it makes sense that it's 1 to 3 to 5. So if you have like 9 mil on Powerfuls and Eternals are like around 30 and then Blacks around 50, that makes sense. However, there should probably be, and there is in this event as well, a limit on the Eternal and the Black because they are just... It's for min-max. Well, there shouldn't be. Again, this is like my brain on shiny on carrots on a stick, right? This is the psychological welfare on my brain that's actually internalized now, is that if you want people to keep coming back to the game and see the items because of their limitations as shiny objects that they should want because they're so limited, then you should do that, right? But yeah.
Reason 1 is that the economy of the game has changed and things need to be adjusted. Like for example, there are too many ways to get meso, so items need to be more expensive.
Yep.
Reason 2 is because you want your players to play or spend more, increasing the time players spend in your game or your revenue by making things harder to get. This change is pretty impactful for new and returning players who do not have that many mesos to buy things.
I would say no. I think new and returning players were never buying Eternal and Black Flames already. I don't know how many new and returning players were buying Mystical Cubes in the shop, but I do agree the Mystical Cube shop value by itself, I mean, it was a mill way in the beginning, and it went down to 500k because, I don't think because they should be less, but just because nobody buys them, because it just doesn't make any sense for where they're priced. Because of access of other sources, right? And then bringing it back up to a mil just seems weird for that item specifically. When it comes to the heart, it is a huge investment early on for new players for sure, but we have 6 weeks, and just with Maple 2 and Ursus alone, you make a bill a week, and just so 4 weeks out of the 6 weeks of just that, and you can already buy the heart. Is it a substantial bigger amount than before because it's suddenly going up instead of gradually? Yes. Does that make it a bad decision? Not necessarily. Is it implemented in a poor way? Yes, because no real motivation was given, no thought process was given, and no announcement until, by the way, here it is, right? So it's all about in the way that it's happening and not what is actually going on. I feel like is the red thread here.
And it just overall sucks for everyone else. So I did some digging, and I want to see if
again, yeah, it sucks. It is really, again, going down to number down bad, right? That seems to be that's like the breakdown there.
I can figure out which one of the two it is. So in MapleStory Korea, the store prices did not change. The hearts are still 2 bill there, always have been, always will be probably. But do we then get twice as many mesos as them? So the mesos that are monster drops are the same. Ursus is the same. We do have Maple Tour, which rewards about 350 million per week if you don't buy any.
Mesos at the monster drop are not the same. We get 6x the base value of Reboot, and Reboot gets 5x. So we do get more monster money from, and then we have Maple Tour. Yeah, Ursus gives more, and then the early boss crystals I think he's going to talk about, right?
Any extra runs. For boss crystals in Maple Global and Maple Sea, the crystals from bosses before Lotus and Damien give out more mesos than in Korea.
Substantially more, and at your own admission, this is also the group of people that is impacted the most by the price of the heart. So the people that are impacted most of the value of the item that went up are also the people who make the most money extra compared to the other region that we are getting an increased price from. So far, it doesn't seem like it's necessarily wrong. It just seems like it's completely untransparent. It wasn't really announced properly, and the process with which it was done seems shitty, right? Again, that seems to be the general thread, although
But after those
doesn't seem
bosses,
to be the
Maple
popular
and
argument
Korea
on
give
Reddit.
way more mesos, up to 28 bill for the Extreme Black Mage, which is almost 3 times as much as our region.
Yeah, endgame in once you get into like Hard Lucid Will and everything beyond that, you get into Tenebris. If you could do that on multi-characters in KMS, you make so much more. It's actually disgusting how much you make over there. And that was because of the variable crystal prices, but we were
the other big difference
getting off
being
on a
frenzy
tangent.
codes boost the spawn rate in the regular servers, but those also don't double your rates. So while in the early game it is easier to get mesos, the higher level bosses give a lot more meso in Maple Korea. We do get more mesos from grinding if you use frenzy in a regular server, but there's no way that we get twice as many mesos, and definitely not in Reboot. But also it's
Yeah, the question is, again, I mentioned it before, like the value of mesos in non-reboot and reboot. We should probably, and it would be very interesting to me if it happened that the value of a fairy heart for reboot and non-reboot happened to be exactly the same. That would really surprise me. It's weird to me that the flames they can just give different prices to in the different regions, but somehow the fairy heart gets the same cost. But again, the motivation behind it could clear that up, but we don't know.
The Clover Guild event that gave a lot of mesos, and this event was running earlier this year, so it can't really be.
By a lot, he means 80 bill, by the way. 20 fairy hearts worth in just this one event. Pretty reasonably attainable as well. But again, remember, this event was the freest amount of nodes and insane amounts of money that you've ever seen in your life. What was the overarching narrative during Clover? It's too hard to cap. You remember that, right?
That we have
players will never be happy with something as insanely OP as a Clover event. And they'll never realize how fucking OP it is until it was gone, and they start realizing what their general level of getting money was when it was removed. Like the amount of gains from this shop and this event with no effort, to just regularly playing the game allowed you to cap on the Brilliant Piggy Banks and on the nodes, just regularly daily playing the game. The people who actually had the audacity to complain about how hard capping was when it was completely unnecessary, it was mind-blowing. Well, not mind-blowing because I'm used to people being people, but yeah, again, it's hard for people to really value what they get if you just don't have a reference of how hard it is without it. Like someone getting carried has a very hard understanding of why you shouldn't just loot all the drops on the ground, because you haven't gone through the process of how much effort it takes to get to the point where you can kill the boss that quickly. But carrying someone for a certain drop and then having them just loot everything, that just shows a whole lot on like why it's not a good idea to do that. You can't magically learn to value something properly if you just haven't put the work in. And it's not like that I suffered so you have to as well, but you can't magically put valuing into someone's brain. It just doesn't happen.
Too many mesos, because if our economy is in such a bad shape that prices need to be doubled, there's no way that Nexon adds another.
There was there was the harvesting tool though, which was expensive and kind of I would be inclined to say kind of necessary, rather necessary if you wanted to cap in a more easy way. But again, it was 4 months and it was so much money. All you had to do is really get the Clover tool twice, just buy it at the halfway mark of the first month, use that for month 1 and 2 to cap, and then use it halfway mark of the third month and use it in month 3 and 4 to cap. And again, I rarely looked at this event, but I was able to buy out all the piggies, all the nodes, and some of the extra stuff, even one growth potion selector, I think. But again, just because it's really hard to cap doesn't mean it should be harder to cap. Just if it's really hard to cap, that means that for the people who are able and willing to put in the time, they get a crazy amount of rewards. And the people who just simply can't do that have to settle for just insane rewards, right? Just because something has the potential of being up here doesn't mean that that should be attainable for every single player in the game. Because if you make something attainable to everyone, then the people who are willing to put a lot of time into the game don't see a challenge and they leave your game. And when you need the people, to an extent, you need the people who are willing to push the envelope and doing the most of the bows that's necessary. You need those people rushing to level 300 like Nero. You need those people who are trying to like blow up a boss in 3 seconds, because those motivate a lot of early game players. I want to be able to do that too. I want to progress through the game. I want to put a lot of time in because I want to be able to do what that guy does or that girl does, right? You want those people to have something to strive for. You want to give them something for their efforts, right? If there's no difference there and everyone could just get the same stuff, people who are willing to put in that time don't see their time being valued anymore. So that's why there have to be differences there. There have to be
event that gives out even more
there.
Nessos, right? Or they could, for example, adjust Maple tool rates or boss crystal prices if our economy is in such a bad shape. Why does this event...
I think Maple tool rates were already adjusted downward quite a bit, right? If I remember correctly. I don't know how well it would go by doing that again. Again, it comes down with EXP as well. A lot of people just see the EXP or see the money that you get, not the amount of money per time or the EXP per time. That's a very important addition to that. Something only really gets value if you look at it at how long it takes.
We already removed the free spawn boosters, so our meso acquisition rates have already gone down by a bit. So the conclusion to me is that Nexon...
Remember when they were going to add more ways of getting totems? Yeah, they sure did do that.
Why does this event store need to be more expensive? They already removed the free spawn boosters, so our meso acquisition rates have already gone down by a bit. So the conclusion to me...
I don't believe... I hope that in a second video he retracts this, but our meso acquisition rate did not go down with spawn removal. They went up significantly. I think when we were doing the maths is that if you spend the same amount of time doing boss mules as you did meso farming on a Kana or on another character on spawn enhancement before, in the same amount of time you make roughly 2.2 times the amount of money. But there's a cap, of course, right? You just have the 180 crystals and then you're capped. Whereas before you could do it an unlimited amount. Although the amount of people that were really farming beyond that point, again, is a small percentage of the community. But
is that Nexon just wants to squeeze his players more. Play the game more or spend more money to get more mesos in a regular server. Which is really crazy, considering I just spent most of this video talking about how content removal and nerfs are hurting the players' trust. Sorry guys for deleting and nerfing regional exclusive content, because we don't want to spend time on fixing it. But please spend some more money and play our game more, okay? This is so tone deaf and just insulting to their players. How does Nexon...
I think before this argument he said like there's two major things. Either want to squeeze people or they make more money. So I think he actually... I think the argument that we're just making more money is actually what stands, and I think he didn't. I don't think he. I think he undermined that argument with I think faulty arguments here, but.
Expect us to play any of their products.
So I don't think. I believe it's the second one, even though it probably to some extent
my progression for no other reason than to squeeze more of my time. I really think that there needs to be a bigger shift at how Nexon manages their games outside of their main regions. Because right now, MapleStory is just not worth playing, and it's even hurting their brand by the way they're running it. I just don't get it, man.
Is MapleStory worth playing? At any given time, I always put a huge question mark against that. I think the game is worth playing if you can enjoy yourself, but I think an unstable game with like a lot of crashes and stuff like that, and if you feel like there's insecurity on things and things will get removed at any time, I think that takes your enjoyment away, and then I don't think it's worth it for most people. But in general, I would never say like yes, it's worth. No, it's not worth. Like the only time was during Destiny. 64-bit came out when the game was actually stable. The new content was crazy. The revamp was great for explorers. I think that was the first time probably, and since then the last time that I actually said like I would say it is worth for like 99% of people watching the video. Yes, it is worth it. Not for like the YouTube clickbaity way, but like legitimately, with facts and logic.
If
you
have
know,
so little commitment to your regional services and you want to take a risk of hurting your brand, of hurting your player base, of hurting their trust by just saving 1 or 2 dev resources, then should this game even be published to begin with? I mean, come on, man. But that's all I had.
I mean, that's a good question. But if you ask people like, would you rather have some of the content removed every now and then, or would you like to have the game shut down completely? If you ask that of everyone in MapleStory, I think you get the vast majority of people who are like, well, it sucks, but I'll probably keep playing it. And then a very loud vocal minority would probably say, well, I'll just go play another game then. And again, I say this sometimes. Some people probably should go play another game. Nexon is not a perfect dev. MapleStory is far from a perfect game. You know, I'm not saying that you should leave, like if you don't like it, leave. I'm not saying that. But if you feel like you're doing nothing but having to complain and swim against the current, and the game is constantly taking away things that you like, and Nexon is never listening to you, after a while, I would hope that you respect yourself and your own time to that extent where you're like, this is not something I feel like my time is being spent useful on. And then look for another game. Every single other dev with every single other game would love to have you as their player. Just look around, you know, play the market, play the field, play a bunch of other games, maybe game hop for a bit, you know, play with some friends, do some League of Legends, hate yourself even more, come back to MapleStory, go to RuneScape, you know, just go down the whole fucking rabbit hole or whatever. But like endlessly just always complaining about everything, still heavily investing all of your time into it. I think at that point you're getting to the fallacious sunk cost, right? Not just to the sunk cost, but definitely to the fallacious one where it's like, well, I can't play any other game now because look how far I am into this game. And then, you know, not to go into all of that, but a lot of people also think that they own their account and own things on their account, and they'll start like selling accounts and RMT and all that thing, which is all illegal because you don't own your account. You don't own anything on it. That's Nexon's property that's on loan to you, right? So if you leave, they can also, you know, ban you or take your, if they have a good reason, of course, hopefully. They could also do that at any moment, and then it's just all gone as well, right? Not that they should do that. But I feel like there's some perspective there that's missing. And again, just because the game isn't perfect right now doesn't mean that you can't complain. And also just because, you know, if the game isn't perfect doesn't mean you should just leave and you can't complain, right? Complain as hard as you feel like is necessary. Make good arguments. Get stuff on paper. Get people organized. Make something that people can rally behind that makes sense. But I guess this is around the end of the first video of 4. Wow, we're really going to get through this really quickly, guys.
I've grown up with this game and I really enjoy playing it, but it just hurts to see
I was
the way
already
that
grown
Nexon
up.
is currently managing things.
Oh my god, he's playing this
doing
character
so
with
much
skill
damage to the
visibility.
game just for the sake of saving 1 or 2 dev resources, man. What the heck? What do you think of all the recent changes that have been made to the game yourself and the way things have been managed? Let me know.
I wonder if really, well, I wouldn't say all the things, but like things like with the extra money on on Jet. I wonder how much money that is. But again, like we have no transparency there, and for that I would defer to Copper-san, because I know he has like personal experience with all of that side of it. So I can't really see on that side. It says like he says I'm not a dev and everything, but he's, you know, his work history speaks for itself. But yeah, in general, that's why I didn't respond to the video the first time, because I felt like it was a lot of kind of rehashing the old bad arguments of like number down bad, number up good. And I know that he knows way more about all that stuff and that he has better arguments. I think the general overarching, like looking at the reputation and looking at the cost, there's some stuff there for sure, but it just feels like the whole process of making decisions and keeping your community up to date of decisions and ongoing conversations that are going on. I think that's where a lot of the problems lie. Because even if things are unpopular, and mainly that combined with the fact that also the game stability right now is horrible, and it's not that's just not in a good situation. And those things together create like a perfect storm of people being upset, combined with the number down bad. Okay, Matt. Shill number 1. Okay, fighting Copper-san. Tell me why Copper-san is completely wrong, Matt, and why Nexon is Overlord, and we should all kiss Austin Mahoney feet. Tell me.
Hey guys, Matt here, and honestly, I didn't
Matt here.
really think I wanted to make this video. Not that I don't think it's important or anything, but because I saw this as pure doom posting and drama farming, that I didn't really want to put myself in between it. But here we are. I'm sure there are like 3 people who care to hear my
Wait, then why did you? It's okay to just fucking ignore it, because I mean, I said as much. Well, I didn't say as much, not with those words, but it did feel a little bit doom. It did feel a little bit like doom posting, true.
thoughts on this. So let's get into it. I'm sure before watching the video, you've seen.
I turned up a little. I don't know why. Matt, upload your videos louder, please. Thank you. Okay, I'm gonna turn it up to 250% volume so we can actually hear it.
Sans the current state of MapleStory.
Thank
and
you.
If you haven't, please do so. But I'll be going over things he talked about in his video. Sacrix also made a response video, which I.
Wait, was Sacrix first? Oh fuck, we have to watch Sacrix's first then. Wait, I was already on 120. Matt, I'm already at 125. Holy shit! Wait, what is his normal speed?
I highly encourage you to watch. I want to start off by saying that what Copper-san.
Oh my god, Matt, please. Okay, where's the whoop? Well, that doesn't help. This screen is also shared. Is New Age Korea's last chance? Oh, another video. Yo, more videos! Holy shit! Let's go.
MapleStory is an MMORPG.
Is it? No, it's not. You're lying. Sacrix MapleStory. Let's see what he is. Can I find his video that way? 2 days ago. Lore. No, 17 minutes. Why do you make Scardor tier length videos, bro? Just kidding. This video is gonna be 4 hours long. You guys better strap the fuck in. And remember, if you skip any part of it and then pretend like I didn't say that or said something else, we got it on video, so get screwed.
Howdy. Post recording Sagrix here. I just wanted to record a little segment because I expanded on my thoughts a little more while I was writing the description down below. So I figured I might as well just read it out since I feel like I go more in depth here. But to reiterate, I genuinely agree with the frustrations on display throughout Copper-san's video, but I didn't completely agree with the direction his video took. MapleStory is very much a love the game, hate the developer type of experience. It pretty much always has been. And while it's seemingly non-stop, the slew of issues at the moment, I don't agree that the game...
Yeah, it always has been. It's very true. I guess it's like a rude awakening for like newer players in this community, but again, it doesn't feel like, well, it's been worse before, so therefore you should be okay with this. That's not the argument, but it has been worse before, and we've survived worse. And again, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't want any change, but it does mean that if you put it into fucking context, that you, there are ways to go about things, and you know what you can maybe change, and you know which things you can't. You know, you got to like pick your battles, basically.
isn't worth playing. From a purely
To blow his
gameplay-
nose? No, this is his permanent voice. Like, I met him IRL. Like, this is just what he sounds like at all times. He doesn't have a stuffy nose or anything. This is just, maybe he has like a deviated septum or something. Pick your battles. Disagrees with the ones. Copper. Sun. Picked, I guess.
Look at MapleStory in 2023, the game has never been better. Reboot is showing just how good this game can be. Leveling is faster than it has ever been.
I would say the game has never been better like last year in Destiny. Then I think it was not perfect, but it was the best it was ever been now. Now I think with the content and stuff in the game that we can do, it's still like it gradually went up. But since the server stability is bad, everything is going to be looked at through like shit tinted glasses, and then it's very easy to magnify like little disagreements into like big things.
Resources are easier to obtain than they have ever been, and classes generally are seeing the positive changes that they've needed for years. In some places, even decades.
Yeah, and also it's not faster because with totems it was slightly faster. But this is kind of like the disagreement I used to have with Musta here a lot, is that just because I could say like it's the best now, and it could be like, well, what if in this one aspect, before this one last change, that was slightly higher? True. The game isn't like a fucking straight line, right? Like it's a scatter plot. It's kind of like you get it to trend upwards, but it doesn't go like it's like a straight line. It's not linear, right? It's best ever now. It is not linear. Linear? Some things did slow down level speed. But as a result, money went up because of boss crystals.
There's a ton that is wrong with the game. Don't get it twisted. GMS is a mess. Caught in a constant state of release non-KMS content that will make money and remove non-KMS content that doesn't make money. Messes with balance. Breaks the progression curve Korea had in mind. 1,000,001 other excuses that Nexon can and likely will come up with. However, I don't see this changing anytime soon. GMS has not had a dev team here in America to support.
Sure, but just because you don't see it changing doesn't mean we shouldn't try to change it, or we shouldn't make our voices be heard in that we would like it to change, right? Because you kind of see, when you leave it there, I feel like you kind of imply that, like, well, why try? It's probably not going to change anyway. Like that's like the doomer, which is surprisingly, when we did the first boycott, most of the people were saying like, it's not going to do anything. Why are you even trying? I'm going to keep spending my money, blah, blah, blah. And then when it actually worked, nobody really ate their words. Everyone was kind of like, oh, that's kind of cool, I guess. But there were a lot of naysayers who were like, oh, it's not worth the time. If I remember correctly, I think Noah was also talking about like how it was a huge waste of time.
Or this region's version of the game
Call
for a
out.
couple of years now, meaning that the sole responsibility for coding everything to work on GMS is left up to the understaffed and underfunded overseas team in Korea. So these things that have been major problems in the region for years, it shouldn't be there, as Copper-san said in the video, is a really bad argument to make, when the team that is working on the game is not the same team that added this content originally. They likely are also unaware of how little or how great the impact of specific things are for different regions. They're not the ones that implemented a lot of this content. They really wouldn't know unless they've played this region for so long, like we have as players, how impactful these things are, which explains why it might take a long time for them to seemingly come to the realization that, holy cow, this is pretty broken. Why hasn't this been removed? Why has Kana had a monopoly on the only source of spawn boosters outside of...
It's possible that Korea, because they only look at the game every now and then, have to make major shifts because they're not like up to date on what is going on there. I like my explanation better, okay? I like my explanation way better.
this giga expensive pay to win totem for going on 10 years. GMS is in a catch-22 of being an overseas server created by a developer team that had different ideals and plans for the game as a service than the team that is currently tasked with maintaining and supporting it in the long run. Nexon Korea is giga xenophobic with unofficial MapleStory content, so the old just add X to KMS argument, just add Kana spawn boosters, just increase the spawn, it'll never work. This stuff made outside of Nexon Korea is not even considered MapleStory in their eyes. They look at it as something completely devoid of value because they are not the region that created it. As far as addressing his second point with the Meso shop changes, I wanted to touch on it.
Wait, but aren't they? Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone is realistically saying we should just add everything to KMS and then we can keep it. I mean, it would be kind of like if they release Jet, then it would definitely be service better for us. But I don't know if anyone is realistically making that argument thinking that that will happen, though. I've definitely heard it float around, though. I've heard it float around,
intentionally or not, glosses over the main reason why the shop got increased. Bosses up to normal Lotus and Damien give more Meso in GMS than in Korea, and that's the meta. And these bosses are significantly easier to get mules up to thanks to non-KMS content. Galax, especially, non-KMS links in Legion, and non-KMS events, Clover Guild being the most recent and one of the most powerful.
Familiars, level 3 links, Maple Tour,
we've ever had, and the list goes on.
Commercy.
So while it might not be exactly twice as many Mesos that we're making over Korea, taking all these things into consideration, it takes less time to get to the point where you're making more Mesos.
I guess you guys said that that Copperson did retract some of that stuff in his second video, right? Because I think I made the same critique of my...
in GMS Reboot than in KMS Reboot by farming normal Lomian and down for your bossy mules, which is the meta. That's what everyone does. So a price change is semi-justifiable.
Lotus and Damien.
With it. I think it's gatekeeping bullshit.
Normalized Dotas.
As far as the Reboot server shop changes, he's just wrong. Frenzy does over double our rates in some instances. For the best mobbers in the game on base spawn, you're looking at 17, 18k mobs per hour, maybe. The best mobbers in the game on Frenzy spawn are pushing close
50?
to 50,000 mobs per hour.
Yeah, 50k. Yeah.
That's not just double, that's over double. So it's very justifiable.
Whoa, that's over double the monsters, but that's not over double the mesos, because we get 6x the mesos per... Okay, we don't get 6x, but this goes into the multiplication and the additive and multiplicative with the meso sources. Because our base is higher, but then multiplies not with everything, but additive with some things. And then the base in non-reboot is way lower, but then they kill way more monsters. Yeah, again, this is why I'm saying it's very difficult to say like how does one region compare to another region. I almost don't want to look through regions. This is why I think they should just either give us the math behind it or just give us different costs for a heart in the two different regions, right? That's what makes more sense in my opinion. But yeah.
GMS Reg servers prices to also be affected. Not to mention, GMS Reg also has a massive, massive Meso farmer problem right now with the Spanish Mafia, which is dragging our Meso value down lower and lower with every passing month. So look at this like you're a Korean developer who's only ever played MapleStory in Korea. Looking from the outside in on the GMS experience and trying to balance it, it looks like we're a fucking fiesta over here. And by all means, we pretty much are. But it's like, GMS will almost assuredly be in this double standard situation for the foreseeable future. That's a shit situation to be caught in, but it's the one we're stuck with. It's a very justified reason to be upset, and I don't disagree with how Copperson feels on this. I just don't disagree. I just don't agree.
Yo, I'm happy that when it comes to like the non-reboot stuff, he pretty much agrees with everything that I said because I don't play non-reboot at all. So I was just kind of like making assumptions, to be perfectly honest, but you know, reasonable assumptions. But they seem to all be vindicated here, so that's good to hear.
Agree with the topics and how he positioned them and tried to portray it. This is definitely
a laughs sound a little bit maniacal, but it's like a combination of like a we're kind of fucked and also like, oh my god, I can't believe it. Like it's a little bit of a double laugh. It's not really a laugh. It's like a haha, fuck us.
Nexon's reputation, but fucking most of Nexon's existence is a stain on Nexon's reputation. They don't need any help in that respect. But that's just my 2 cents here. One thing about the new Copperstein video, on like the one hand, I share the frustration that he feels, but it's very easy to play the devil's advocate for this situation because all of the things that have been removed were added to the game back when GMS had a local dev team. GMS no longer has a local dev team.
I don't know if I should watch all of this now because he said like he was able to word himself better as he was thinking about it afterwards. So I'm thinking that everything he said now is probably like kind of a wrap up and a better reworded version of what he said like live during the stream.
So it's not a case of like non-KMS content keeps getting removed, but we keep having non-KMS events. It's more that non-KMS content that was added
probably
by the
going to be repeating everything,
GMS
right?
that no longer exists is getting removed because there's no local team to support it anymore. And it's a lot more work for the overseas team to support this content. Whereas the new non-KMS stuff that we get is coming from regions that still have dev teams.
Wait, is that... Look, this is Frenzy spawn. Look at how quickly this fucking thing fills up. You guys... Well, okay, hang on. I'm at 2x speed, okay? So divide by 2, alright?
And the reason they keep bringing non-KMS events over is because they make money. So it's like, while I share the frustration, I don't know. It's very explainable why these things are getting removed. I also think it's pretty disingenuous that he's saying, oh, just hire 2 more devs to support this stuff when nobody knows how hard it is to maintain Nexon's 20-year spaghetti code. Especially code from developers who haven't been with the game for years and years and years. Like, that would literally be tech torture. I couldn't imagine those poor devs.
Okay, I think it's just going to be repeating everything you said before, right?
On their own wands right now, than to deal with. so the whole do technically exist. Like, Jet was added to the game way back when Nexon had a far different policy for overseas content. Like, the Nexon of 11 years ago when Jet was added was way more open to their, like, local regions making their own content. Like, the KM mentioned that we get revamps for a set of classes. Like, the Cygnus is only revamped 6 classes, and that was a 6-month endeavor from Nexon. So it's like, it would be a lot of manpower.
I think they said for the Destiny revamp that it was the same amount of dev hours as like 4 to 5 completely new classes, I think is what they said.
A lot of man hours just to remake Jet from the bottom up. And for a class that doesn't exist in their version of MapleStory, I just can't ever see them doing that.
Yeah, I think there are good arguments against. Yeah, I mean, I guess I overall like disagree with the Copperstone's video, like kind of like the tone of it, but I think there were some good points in it. I'm trying to. It feels like Secrix is a little bit more focused on what was wrong with the video rather than how can we use the sentiments and the arguments in the video in a positive way to, or which part of this can we conserve and move towards. Because it seems to agree in the beginning of the video that the game isn't like there's a lot of shit wrong with it, and even though in general it's in a good position, there's still a lot of stuff that needs to be done. So instead of like what can we do and which topics can we talk about, I feel like his focus in the video is a little bit more about like which things were wrong in a Copperstone video, which is probably why people in general, well, because the Copperstone was being hailed as a fucking hero because he's like sticking it to the man, and then if there are things factually wrong with the video that are being pointed out by someone else, it'll just be seen as a complete undermining of the general message of the video, which I think you can have a good you can have like a right conclusion, but you can come to it in a wrong way with wrong arguments, which I don't necessarily disagree with. Secrix here is probably what happened a little bit with Copperstone. But if you only point out all the things that were wrong and then you're trying to undermine the entire point of the video, you're gonna get the brunt of the community back against you, especially when he's riding so high at that point, right? Okay, this video is from 1 day ago. Wait, this one is from 2 days ago, but this is more about New Age, but this is only 3 minutes. Let's watch this.
Which saw its very first release as an exclusively Korean title on April 29th, 2003.
This guy gets video volume. Good job. Who is this? Mist. Good job, Mist. That's a good volume.
Making it one of the oldest MMOs which are still alive to this day. Its
Is RuneScape older or younger?
history is remarkably rich and telling of times where the game was undoubtedly much better than it is now. The MapleStory community is mainly composed of older players.
Wait, hang on, what is it?
MMOs which are still alive to this day. Its history is remarkably rich and telling of times where the game was undoubtedly much better than it is now. The MapleStory community is mainly composed of older players who have been around for many long years.
I don't think you can ever say that the game was. You have to like give more arguments. There was definitely parts of the game that were more fun, more interactive. It was cooler. It was more social. There were a lot of aspects of the game. Back then, though, every single map... I've trained through areas where every single map you went to had like 4 hackers in it. All the mobs were flying across the map. You'd constantly be dying because you couldn't move anywhere or stand anywhere for like a second because people would spawn things on you. Everything you worked on, everything you invested in could, at one snap of the finger, if someone decided to dupe an item that was like connected to what you were doing, then they could just price you completely out of the market. They can make all of the stuff that you spend all of your time in completely valueless instantly. There was a time where if you were a guild leader and you walked into the free market, your guild could just get instantly deleted, which happened to a lot of people. Some people got, like, other people hacked into their account just because of them being online and them knowing absolutely nothing about them. There were like exploits to that level. There were and people who duped would constantly crash the servers to dupe their items, so the game was constantly crashing. Again, I'm not saying overall that means the game was better or overall it means the game was worse, but just to like blanketly say that without like any backup, I think, again, it's like you're making a tier list of like, this class is better than this one. Well, why is it better? Well, because in Lucid Phase 3, you can do more damage. Okay, well, if that's your metric, then okay, but you have to say that that's your metric. Otherwise, your statement of the class is better leads to a whole bunch of other conclusions that aren't necessarily true, right? Okay, 22 seconds and we're going
years and have continued to stick around despite all of the game's notorious problems.
Like
Players who fall into this category are well aware of what to expect of MapleStory and its developers, and the changes being made to the game which reflect
Steve!
Korean Nexon's desperation to keep these people playing. Some of Nexon's most recent decisions have been especially made in order to halt and reverse the trend of players migrating to reboot servers, a move that has been orchestrated in response to reg servers constantly getting the short end of the stick when it comes to quality of life changes and buffs. Unlike GMS, the KMS community is well organized, as seen time and time again, and will not hesitate to boycott or even quit the game en masse should their patience get tested sufficiently. The 20th
Imagine like turning on the evening news and having like flames and MapleStory on the news, dude.
anniversary update has put Nexon in a very awkward position in a way unlike anything we've seen before. All of the quality of life changes that serve to benefit rec servers did.
Yeah, this is really a lot more about, I mean, in that sense, you have a really good video title. I would thought might be a little bit synchronized, but it's like tangentially related, but it's more about like the New Age update for Korea being, so I guess it's a little bit off topic, but again, like the editing and the audio and all of that shit is all really good. Good job on that, dude. Good production. Okay, Matt, tell it to us straight and fast.
Saying in his video is definitely not wrong, but I feel like it is framed poorly. It is clearly very one-sided, pandering only to the negative changes that have recently been going on, without acknowledging the fact that MapleStory is the best it's ever been, playability-wise. Leveling is easier because of the constant.
Again, I would disagree because playability, I think, to me, is a lot of server stability, and server stability is now about at the point, I would say, where it was almost a year ago, when it was probably at near its worst. Memory leaking was way worse then, and that was an extra layer that we don't have as much anymore now. But like not knowing whether you can do content, having to relog, randomly game closing, cache up being the actual crash up more than 50% of the time, I don't think you can blanketly say it's the best it ever was. Are there the most amount of stuff that you can play? Is there the most amount of stuff you can play? Yes. Is there the most amount of bosses you can do? Yeah. And the most amount of areas where you can train? Yeah. Is there unparalleled character parity in terms of balance? Yes. Is there unparalleled parity in terms of training opportunity because of loss of totems and amount of areas created? Yes. But depending on how important something is to you as a player, this could be the best time ever or could be the worst time ever. If your goal was, I want to speedrun this game in like 3 months, I want to just make a kana, turn off my brain for a month and make like 600 trillion mesos, grind all of my stuff, get carried on all of the bosses, and do the endgame boss and save for 3 months, this game is finished. If somebody wants to do that, is this right now the best state the game has ever been in? No, very far from it, right? So you can't blanketly say it's the best. You also can't blanketly say it's the worst. It depends on your parameters that you set.
6 speed reduction, the boss meal meta shows how much easier it is to acquire meso in the game, and classes in the game are getting the quality of life improvements they've needed for a long time. Even with all that, this game has a lot wrong with it, but I disagree with Coppersan when he says that it's not worth playing. Your enjoyment is yours alone, and not anyone else's. Whether you like the
I'm hearing a lot of Sacrix overlap, though.
gambling aspects of the game, the cute pixels you dress up yourself with, or bossing and grinding, you decide whether or not that is enough for you to support something, and if it isn't, then stop. Coppersan tends to speak out for
Then stop again, but you are allowed to complain, right? You have invested time, you are a consumer of a product, you are also allowed to complain. But I think the step beyond that is make sure you have good arguments and that you have something directed at like this thing is specifically bad and this is what we want changed to it, or you need to change something about how you come to these decisions or how you communicate these things. Poignantly, just saying like either, oh, I don't like it, this company is the worst in the world, that's kind of unproductive, or I don't like it, so I'm just piecing, or if you don't like it, then just leave. That's also, I don't think, that's almost what this kind of sounds like, and that's probably also what people don't want to hear.
Or intimidate to the average player who might pick up the game every now and then, and maybe at some point I do agree with it that this game punishes those types of players with these changes, and it sucks. But if you actively play this game, some of these changes aren't as bad as they seem, and in some cases, better. Let's talk about some points he made in this video. Nexon removes content without any consideration for its players.
I will say that every time there's a big change, a lot of people get super upset, hyper focus on the changes, like when the changes from Kishin to only being with, oh god, what's it called again? I said it earlier today already. Shadow, no. What was the thing, the skill that you had to trigger to increase the uptime of Kishin? Something Shadow. Fuck. Night Ghost Guide? Yeah, see, something Shadow. I said it. Night Ghost Guide, right? When that thing was just announced and not even in the game yet, there were like a bunch of people and like threads on Reddit and stuff of people saying like, well, I'm quitting because apparently I can't turn my brain off and make like billions an hour on a kana anymore. Like, this is not the game for me anymore. And honestly, those people quitting for that reason, I think is good. Because if that's your 100% baseline and you cannot possibly go down from that, and just hearing the announcement and the fear mongering surrounding that of what that's probably going to do to the game makes you leave. That's great. What was the reality when that change happened? There were 2 or 3 different workarounds of things that you could do, which actually increased the uptime of Kishin, actually made it easier to have Kishin on for a long time. Time after time, and like the changes with the boss crystals and the change of spawn were seen as like, this is going to be fucking horrible. Ask any late game and end game person. You make way more money. You have way more time to actually play the game. Do like the more brute forcey things, like do all the pitch bosses. Make sure you can do all of that solo and have a higher chance there. You can spend more time in Oz, which has like insane gains in the end game. You're able to have more freedom on how you do your time while making the same amount of money, or even more. And you can spend the rest of that time in a more efficient way. Like, all of these big changes have never hurt me in how I play the game. They've always been positive there, which I think there's something to that, but, don't want to toot my own horn too much there, because, we're only, sooner or later, that winning streak is going to end. And the other thing is that every big change that has seen a lot of critique when it came out and had a lot of backlash in the end has pretty much always ended up having the results be similar or better afterwards. Thing with totems, for example, is like, totems gone, now we're going to make half our rates. Well, yeah, if you want to stand still in the middle of the map and not actually actively play the game, but just hold down a button, you're going to make around half your rates, yeah. But now map meta resets. Now, because map meta resets, burning is overall higher. So are you going to make less? Yeah. Is it going to be half? No. Is it? And if it is half, then you're choosing to make half. For most people, the rates ended up being, depending on where they are, when I'm looking at like the big numbers, and with the new areas coming out, for most people their rates are like 75 to like 80%, which of course is still a huge bummer, but that's a far cry from half, cutting in half, right? Especially when we can all agree that half was actually probably a little bit too fast and a little bit too crazy and too low effort. But again, baseline 100%, going down to 80% feels bad. If you know that on a totem you're at 200% and removing the totem takes you down to 100%, going to another map, actually making it more like you're going to from 200%, 80%, well, let's say 75% of that, 150%. So you're going from 100 to 150%, or you go from 200 to 150%, still above that 100% mark. It's all just a matter of perspective.
A statement like this that probably hurts the people who constantly work on this game more than we as players getting affected by these changes. When we talk about content removal, we aren't just talking about a talk two employees had with each other over a cup of coffee. I'm sure multiple sessions were had and talked extensively about the outcome of said decisions. A particular point I want to make here is, how do you know?
I hope, yeah. I don't know how sure I am, but it'll never feel justified, I think, to certain players. It'll never feel like
people who came up with certain content and implemented it are even working there anymore. For some of this content, it has been years since its introduction, and I'm sure multiple different teams, have had conversations about how to deal with the current state of MapleStory, specifically overseas. One team's ideas can be completely different from another's on how to deal with the situation, and ultimately, a different path is chosen for the betterment of the game that they decide at that time. This is what we as players deal with. Transposing flames taken away, labeled as a bug fix, not content change. This sucks no matter how you look at it. For a key content...
I mean, yeah, limiting it... just labeling it as a bug fix was one of the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard.
Removal to be labeled as...
because it was in the game for multiple years. Sorry, Matt,
a bug fix after 5 years is insulting to the players, and I don't know who at Nexon messed up, but they didn't feel like it was worth commenting on it even after it happened. It's clear that they wanted to sweep this under the rug, because this is seen as a complete miscommunication problem by Nexon America and the overseas team in Korea. Why release content if you don't want to commit to the upkeep? My answer? Short-term gains. It's profitable for them to release something they know will do well in the short term that players will eat up only to decide to do something else with it later on. It's a business at the end of the day. Nexon Korea constantly making changes to the game doesn't help this, because then the overseas team is tasked with the problem of fixing a problem they created that didn't need to be there. Totems is a good example of this. Following this is the whole Meso shop drama and Meso's problem in GMS versus KMS. This is what I think about it. The GMS reboot meta is making mules up to normal Lomian. This is collectively seen as the best efficient way. There's no argument here that GMS players make more Mesos than KMS reboot in this regard. GMS did not receive the crystal price fluctuations that KMS did, and we instead got an increase to our crystals from 3x to 5x of Reg Server. Reg Server received nothing. Does this justify an increase to the cost in our Meso shops? Yes. Next, even if KMS can make more Meso after normal Lomian, it doesn't matter. Coppercent here acts like the average
Again, does it justify it? Probably. I would have to see the maths on it, and based on the maths, I would have to judge how big of an increase would be reasonable. Again, so even though I think his argument is looking more balancedly at both, I feel like probably Coppercent's argument was too far, like disfavor. But I think Mats and Sacris are a little bit too far. I'm going to be the centrist here, okay? The enlightened centrist has arrived, all right? Is that their arguments are a little bit too far on the opposite side. Like what? Like that's wrong. That's not completely right. It's definitely justified. I don't think we can know because lack of communication, lack of transparency coming out from next.
Reboot player is making C10 emules, and that is completely wrong. He even tries to double down and mention Extreme Black Mage giving 28 bill. But who cares? This does not factor into the Meso Shop price adjustments and whether or not to make them. Coppersan follows by mentioning Frenzy Totem. Now, we are entering the reg server side of things. He says that Frenzy doesn't double your Meso rates. Well, yes, he's actually correct on this, because it basically triples it. The average kill rate off Totem, depending on different factors, can be 15 to 18k, whereas Frenzy Spawn is getting 45 to 50k kills per hour. Does this justify a price increase? Yes. Something that Coppersan...
But it doesn't make it triple. Wait, why are they saying that? The mesos per monster in Reboot are higher. So just because you're killing triple the monsters doesn't mean your meso rates are triple. Wait, why are both Matt and Sekric saying this? Because like if I'm doing regular training, I'm making 500 mil an hour. If you train there with a Frenzy Totem, you're not going to make 1.5 bill an hour, are you? He's comparing KMS and GMS. Oh, not not Reboot and non-Reboot. Oh, yeah, okay, because I haven't heard anyone say, mention my argument again at all of like the price of the heart being the same for Reboot and non-Reboot in GMS. I feel like that's more the issue rather than the price went up from KMS to GMS. Because I don't think anyone in the history of MapleStory has ever been able to make like an adequate comparison of what KMS to GMS on what that factor is and why something should be cheaper or should be more expensive. Like a lot of people probably don't even know that the cubes, the hard cubes in GMS are more expensive than in KMS. Why? Because people like hardly buy them anymore now, right? But like back in the day, you used to buy them all the time to upgrade your stuff when bossing was like pretty much inaccessible. And then Flames came out, and it was like, oh, Flames probably going to be a little bit more expensive as well. And then Flames came out at exactly the same price, and it was like, oh, that's weird since we make more money, but they're the same price. So now we're basically getting more bang for our buck, right? In Dallas, day 0, yo, have fun in Fort Worth, bro.
To mention in his video is that KMS Reboot has 5 times the meso rate to reg server, whereas GMS Reboot has 6 times the rates. I don't remember when we got this change, but fundamentally speaking, GMS Reboot makes more meso than KMS. There is no argument here. In addition, we also have Maple Tour, which is roughly 340 mil per week if you do your 2 free runs per day. It can make upwards of 1.2 bill a week if you decide to use Maple points. Pure and simple, we make more mesos than KMS. Now factoring everything, do we get twice the amount to justify the price increase to the shop? Probably not, even though I said yes to everything else. In my opinion, this just seems very gatekeepy by Nexon. Alienating your more casual player base that wants to come back every now and then and enjoy the game is not the correct move you want to make, because the people who consistently play your game won't feel a 2 bill increase in the Fairy Heart. It sucks that it's a minor setback, but it's not as impactful as to someone who just wants to hop on and enjoy some events and play Maple for the next 2 or 3 months. Overall, I didn't like the one-sided tone Coppersan portrayed in his video.
That taps more into like what I was saying about it might be a minority of people or a great majority of people won't probably even notice the cost change. And that doesn't mean that because they don't notice it, that therefore it's a good decision. But it does mean that if a large majority of people, that's not content that they're concerned with, that therefore it's not something that is, if it's a minor adjustment that makes sense for the balance of the game, and it doesn't have a large scale side effect because most people aren't really at that point yet. It's always going to be disagreement there on like, well, if it doesn't impact enough people, then why should you change it? And other people saying, well, just because an adjustment doesn't fix the entire fucking world doesn't mean that therefore you shouldn't do it, right? If it makes sense to keep everything in line with each other. But again, no announcement, no transparent, blah, blah, blah. You guys get the picture.
We made it out like MapleStory is on an abysmal demise. People have been saying that shit since Big Bang. While MapleStory is by far a perfect game,
but that was true though. Big Bang was fucking horrible and destroyed the actual game. That's why I quit at 13 because there was nothing left. They destroyed everything they had. It was only when Reboot came. Honestly, if Reboot hadn't come back to GMS when it did, the game wouldn't be up now. I am 99% convinced of that. It's only because Reboot came to Global that people had some semblance of like old MapleStory coming back. And most of that was because the game economy was completely ruined by hackers because Nexon was unable to protect their game from hackers. Which, again, is that Nexon's fault? Or is it the fault of the people taking advantage of their game. We are not in Korea. In Korea, there are a lot stronger laws and protections for game devs and laws against hacking video games and that kind of stuff. And people can be prosecuted much more heavily, and people can be found much more easily because of the connection to the video game with their social security number or phone number or whatever. And as a result, there's more on the line for players there, and people stay in line more, and therefore you can control your economy and you can control your flow and your progression through the game better. Because in GMS, people just just selfish assholes who just care about their personal gains. Some people pay themselves through college just by like duping stuff in a video game. Just absolutely like no moral compass there. Because of that, Nexon's product came under fire. And I think because of that, the only reason that Reboot makes sense is because people like the IP, people like the art, people like the overall vibe of the game, but they don't want the insecurity of, is it going to shut down at any moment, which is like private servers? Is it going to, is my investment of time in this game going to be suddenly deleted by someone else just hacking into my stuff or into the items that I own and then deleting the value of it, right? Reboot gave that protection because no auction house, no trade, and what seemed like a huge drawback, and which was a drawback to a certain extent, has led to one of its biggest strengths, I think, in the sense of not having an economy is actually, if an economy can be safeguarded, it's better to not have an economy than to have one that will destroy your game.
And riddled with problems, it is still enjoyable depending on what you want out of it. The game has never been easier to play, but still difficult enough to pose a challenge. Nexon's summer update, New Age, feels like their last chance to really get this game back on track after all the controversy that has been going on. Let's hope the update name lives up to the expectation of Maplers all around the world. Please, let me know what you think of all this in the comments down below, and I will see you all in the next video. If you guys enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave a comment down below. Big thanks to Rooney, Brandon Lee, Yo MJ.
Bro, Prime Gaming. Let's see if we can get some comments. There really is no reasonable argument in favor. Next to a friend, a new player to play this game from scratch. Next one just makes it harder and disrespects your time. Your class so it might just be removed one day. Well, I mean, it's not realistic. Not any class is available to be at any point is going to be removed, right? Like the non-KMS classes, maybe, right? So you definitely want to give that as advice to your friend. But it sounds like, why would you try to tell your friend that to play when it seems like you don't even want to play it yourself, right? I would never be like, oh, this game is absolutely shit, I'm never going to play it. But you would love it. You should totally play it. I think I'm going to remove a class in the middle of a maintenance without any warning. Lamau. Yeah, that's a little weird. Oh yeah, we're just going to remove this class during the maintenance without telling a player. Well, to be fair, they didn't remove the class. They removed class creation, right? Well, where I also agree that I think class creation should have been kept up until the beginning of Savior for the people who do want to create one. But I think this is just the ease and definitely like, shitty thing. But it's just like, well, if we don't have any more created now, then we can already start with the process of like logging all the characters and already move forward with that process. And we don't have to wait until then and put in a time limit of like only characters created before then, et cetera, et cetera. That's probably just a convenience thing on their side, which I agree is pretty selfish on that sense. I had to get a lot of comments with a lot of voting as well. But I guess somebody posted it on the subreddit, which my video will never be because my video will be too long. This will be hours long. So for people who actually want to go through the whole thought process of all the things that are going on, not for people who are looking for anything sub 10 minutes to yell at or to rally behind. Oh, that's almost at 20K. Yeah, good shit, dog. Hell yeah. Okay, and then what is this one? Oh, that's a video. And now we have the Copperson follow-up. Which hopefully agrees completely with everything I've said so far so that we can be a unified front for change and prosperity among the peoples of MapleStory. Let's see. Copperson again. Alright, let's see.
Hey YouTube, Coppersan here. I was thinking of how to best address some of the follow-up videos made by...
Okay, we need to... Copperson, you also need to be louder, bro. Loud it up. Just But it's almost the higher volume, the better. You can always turn someone down, but turning someone up has a max, okay?
Other MapleStory content creators and comments that I got in the previous video. I think it's great that everyone in the comments, Misusing TV and Sacrix, all share their points of view, as we're all in different stages of the game. And I think discussions like this are great for the betterment of the game. Plus, I think I didn't get some of my points across in the previous video, so I would like to clarify a little bit. This is a bit of a weird drama video and a follow-up on the previous video, so make sure to check that one out first. First of all, I finished the previous video saying that I don't think it's worth to play MapleStory with the current direction the game is going. And some people think I'm being overdramatic or doom posting, but I mean it. It is not worth your time at the moment. The reason for this is being the constant removal and nerfing of content that isn't available in MapleStory Korea. Here I'm referring to the jet removal, totem removal, Kana nerfs, and commercy flame stats no longer transposing. My point is that I find Nexon is very adamant on removing regional exclusive content, at least at the moment. They don't want to commit resources to fix things, but we have so many regional differences that this would have a huge impact on how we play the game if this keeps up. That's unless Nexon actually shares that
has a huge impact, but whether or not it declines from the intended game balance, I think is the basic crux, right? Number go down bad. It feels like he's restating number go down bad, right? In a fancier way for sure.
The general
but I feel
direction
like
or vision for how they want to
goes
work
to
with the
that.
way MapleStory Global and MapleStory C are different from MapleStory Korea. There is currently no point in long-term commitment unless they actually share how they plan to deal with all these regional differences. For example, our attack speed is balanced differently.
Should, oh yeah, attack speed, we didn't mention. Should KMS commit harder to non-KMS content in other regions or just not? Or no, KMS should, other way around. Or just not release it there at all. That seems to be the argument here, right?
MapleStory Global and C compared to MapleStory Korea. For our regions, this makes some classes stronger and makes the skills just a bit smoother, while other classes have less benefits from this regional change. Let's say you pick a main class, Demon Slayer. That's playing a lot smoother and is a little bit stronger right now thanks to the attack speed difference that we have in our balance. It would suck if Nexon decided that
A little bit. Dude, DS has gotten buffed like the last 8 patches or something.
they are aligning the attack speed because that's how it is in KMS, because then suddenly your class feels a lot slower and it's a bit weaker. So you invested time and money into something that you might enjoy less because of this change. Or our cube rates being higher in MapleStory Global compared to Maple Korea or C. What if you farm a lot of mesos and then suddenly the cubes get aligned to KMS and Maple C rates, which are really bad by the way? Or what if you're spending every day farming Golex coins and just before you buy your items, the Golex get removed because it was causing bugs? My point was that Nexon is not showing any commitment to keeping up whatever isn't in MapleStory Korea. When is something broken enough for them to be removed from the game? What if the next patch introduces a bug to Golex and Nexon doesn't want to spend money on fixing it? I spent all my time farming this boss for what? Or what if Nexon suddenly
Then it could get removed, which sucks in a moment, but we will have been able to have Golex as a huge benefit compared to Korea, and we will have been able to progress faster than them the whole time. I agree that it would feel bad and feel shitty, and definitely if you had a thought of like, yeah, again, this is like a disagreement. Like, should all the content in the game be seen as like forever content that could never be altered or never be removed? Or is that something that should be left up to the discrepancy of the dev and that can happen, you know? For me, I think it's better to focus on the reasoning on why it's happening, the communication of why it's happening, and the announcement of when it's going to happen. I feel like there's like where there's way more potential for improving.
wait a minute, this balance isn't done properly, we should change the attack speed. Then suddenly my class doesn't feel that nice to play anymore and I spend all my time for nothing. I'm saying this because I want clarity on which direction Nexon is taking with their regional...
That specific example is of course something that I've been echoing for a long time. Like, attack speed has, and I've made a little short of this, but like attack speed has the potential to completely destroy GMS if they just copy that shit over and decide that that's what they're going to do for GMS. That is going to be... like order of magnitude worse than whatever jet removal is going to do to GMS, because then you I think what we'll have is like half of the people who are playing this game, their characters are just gonna feel like they're just stuck in the mud, and your damage output, even though your damage output would be aligned with what I guess they would have wanted you to do in KMS. Not even, we're still going to be stronger than KMS, right? And still we're going to be attacking. Doing more, hitting harder than KMS because of the stuff that we have that they don't have, but that sense of why do you pick a character and how fast can a character be and how can you move around, that's so indicative of the profile. Sorry, the profile of the character and the reason why you picked a character and played it as much as you did. When that changes, even just 2 ranks of it, I mean, we'll implore you to just not use a green pot for like a day and do the same content that you always do. you will get to where I am, old me, and say all change is bad. Okay, like it's just a horrible, worst horrible thing. Will you adjust? Probably. Should you adjust? Maybe. Probably not, but maybe. I hope that they don't, though. I think that'll be absolutely horrible. And again, then this comes back into the duality of like, is a decision that you make good for the balance of the game or good for the game? If it's good for the balance of the game, but everyone fucking hates it and then stops playing and hates the game because of how good it was before, then it's not good for the game, even though it was good for the balance of the game, right? Is giving everyone like a whole bunch more money, can it be good for the game that a lot of people play it? Yeah, but it can be horrible for the balance of the game, right? You want to make decisions that are both good for the game and good for its balance, which is tough. It's really tough to keep up.
Of MapleStory. And simultaneously, I was also wondering,
when does the Ride MMO come out?
these
Yeah, I
changes,
think late
because our progression and skill
2024.
balance was
I
never
think.
adjusted to all the additional stuff that
I
we
think we're
have
still
in
a
Global,
year and a
which
half
also
out.
causes a lot of imbalance, taking attack speed, for example, which makes some of our classes quite a bit stronger compared to Maple Korea, or cubes not draining so many mesos, so the MapleStory Global Reboot players compared to other regions have to spend way less mesos on those. However, there's nothing else compensating for that. Instead, actually, Nexon even adds more ways to make mesos,
Mechanic!
which offsets the balance that it didn't have in the first place even more. My stomach always turns a little bit when Nexon mentions that they're doing stuff because of balance, because clearly they don't want to spend money and time on balancing whatever they put in the game in the first place, which makes them look bad. And personally, I want
Because of balance, I hate those mentions in videos when it's like, oh, we balanced this, or we adjusted this, or we just any kind of vague post like that is like, by how much? Did it go up or down? Like, give us some details. Tell us why, you know?
MapleStory to succeed. I'm probably one of the biggest fans of this game, and it just sucks to see Nexon make all these bad changes to their flagship product. Nexon is still actively developing the MapleStory brand, yet they also don't seem to want to put that much effort into fixing bugs or balancing their content properly for their regional versions. And I want to play this game for the next 10 years and all newer MapleStory games as well. So I want to be a little bit selfish, and that's why I made that video, because I want Nexon to do a better job, so that I and everyone else can keep enjoying this game without having to be worried about what gets deleted next. Some other points were brought up on team changes or the Nexon OC office closing. To set the record straight here, we don't actually know what the people were working on at that Nexon OC office in America, since it was never disclosed to the public, at least not that I could find. I only could find mentions that it was never disclosed what they were actually doing. And secondly, as a player, I should not have to play a lesser quality game because of things that were introduced to the game in the past. Actually, I'm pretty certain that the developers who are working on MapleStory are doing their absolute best to work with what they have. My issue is that Nexon as a company does not seem to want to commit to their overseas flagship game. Like, I'm sure that all the changes and content removal are being discussed is not something that's randomly decided, but I don't like it when the outcome of those discussions are that content has to be removed because there just aren't enough people to fix the issues that they have, like in the case with Jet. Because let's be honest here, if Nexon really wanted to, I'm pretty sure there would be ways to not remove a class because it creates bugs, but instead resolve those issues.
If that's the reason, I agree. I think just most stuff is introduced into GMS with a shelf life of like, this is most likely going to be in the game for like 2 to 3 years at most, and either we're going to like start nerfing it like month number 6 in, or we're just going to lead it straight out after a certain amount of time or after it surpasses a certain level. I do feel like, especially non-KMS stuff that makes it into GMS, just all has a shelf life upon arrival. It's either huge bugs, it's either a lot of version mismatches with other stuff that comes out. It's like big rebalancing or, you know, big fix necessary stuff, or it's just overall the shininess of it has worn off, and the people who were playing the game more because it was in the game just aren't really engaging with it anymore, and therefore it's not necessary to have it, so just axe it. Yeah, I don't know to which extent we will get transparency on that. It's like, oh, new content comes out from like Princess No. Is it ever going to get deleted? I don't think so. Does it give us an unfair advantage against the KMS? Of course. You know, we have Kana treasure rings. If you want to get that same kind of value in KMS, all you can do really there is to craft, use primals, right? To craft Meister rings. That's
and we could get proper regional balance based on our attack speed, but Nexon decided to not invest into that. And I want them to invest in that. I want everyone to enjoy a proper game. And deleting content is not the way to achieve this, in my opinion. Regarding my points on the meso price changes, I actually apologize, because in the previous video I severely underestimated the value of Frenzy Totem. It actually does close to triple your rates. My apologies for not doing enough research on that. I thought it was like 50%. And in MapleStory Korea, the reboot meso rates are ×5.
Yeah, the thing with the 50% is like, it gives you a bunch more monsters and it gives them a bunch faster, and those two effects multiply with each other, creating the total amount of monsters you can kill being just way higher. And I think it's totally reasonable that he underestimated it, because it is fucking crazy. But to remind everyone how good Frenzy is now, that was how good Kishin was at that time as well originally. And I think Kishin got nerfed, I believe 4 or 5 times it got adjusted before it was finally made so that it doesn't affect your monster spawn in any way anymore.
Below the mesa rates are times 6. This was actually an error on my part, and I apologize for not sharing the correct information with you all. However, I do stand by my point. Totems have been in the game for years, frenzy totems, and I believe the mesa rate was like that from the beginning as well. At least I couldn't find on when that would have been changed. Boss crystal prices have been a while like this as well. So what is Nexon's reasoning for upping the prices suddenly? Nothing really changed. If anything, the general MapleStory player makes a bit less mesos now because of the totem removal that we had. If there are gold sellers or Maplers with frenzy totem that earn that many mesos, then Nexon should solve that issue and not impact all players' progression by making the event stores a lot more expensive. If that actually is the case though, I think we can all argue about how many mesos we make, but the end of the line is, we don't know. Maybe we do make more mesos because of our early game bossing mules being more profitable. I don't know, and Nexon doesn't tell us. Maybe I could even agree with the price store changes, but my issue is that Nexon does not tell us why things are changed. They mentioned
Okay,
currency.
so what I said was true. Copperson has come over to the enlightened centrist side, okay? He's come to the conclusion that it could be a good move, but could also be a bad move. The problem is that it's untransparent and it's not announced, and we don't know the actual maths behind it. And if we did, we could agree or disagree with it, and we'd have some foundation to base that decision on. But right now, we don't have any of that, which was my argument. Welcome, Copperson. Join the gray side, okay? We're not black or white on anything. We're just that everything is gray, everything is nuanced. Hell yeah. Love to have you here.
The acquisition difficulty has changed, and therefore we up the prices, but those are just empty words to me. There could be a million valid reasons for why this is the case, but Nexon doesn't actually share or communicate those.
Nope.
And as long as they don't, I disagree with the price changes. And I still might, or I no longer will disagree if they would actually explain themselves, but they don't. So I want to finish off this video by saying that I don't dislike
Based,
the work of Nexon and
Copperson.
Korea. This is not an attack to them personally. I think they're all probably working the hardest as they can. I'm just a MapleStory player, and I want to play MapleStory for a very long time, but I fear that all the recent changes and lack of care MapleStory Global and MapleStory C are getting, it's actually hurting their player base, and people are losing trust, people are scared about what's going to be removed next. And I want this game to be better. I want Nexon to be better, because if they succeed, I get to enjoy MapleStory for a bit longer. And that's all I had to say for today. Thanks again for watching these drama videos. I think this is the last one I'm going to make on this topic. And as always, many thanks to our members for making these videos possible. Special thanks.
I don't think it's a drama video at all. I mean, just mentioning other people's opinions and like trying to dispower certain arguments or make different arguments and stuff, I don't think it has anything to do with drama. This is just like, I think it's just healthy discussion. I wouldn't call it that. But yeah, I mean, obviously, second video, way more based because he agrees with me more. And, you know, I'm super based, so, you know, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I mean, I saw a lot of the comments going back and forth. I think the second video is way more nuanced and makes more sense. Follow-up. We need follow-up now, okay? Because, look, fucking boycott number 1... Electric Gigolo or whatever the number 1 is, that worked. As weird as it was, that did work. So we're gonna reach out to our boycott Discord again. We need to, I think it's like ultimatum time though, because, you know, like a year ago they showed that they can do it, and then now with the general stuff, it's always been like, we need to be more transparent and we need more communication. It needs to be something like with those bean bulletins or direct communication with. The real question is, can we demand like at least Bean Brigade members or something should be able to request or like put out polls to viewer bases to get like opinion on the players directly before you do certain changes. There's got to be an order of reaching people and seeing people's responses, but I wonder if there's room for that in the structure, in the hierarchy of this, in the decision-making hierarchy, because it feels a lot like certain things are just being labeled to be like pushed down. And even if it was communicated more transparently and more quickly, there's still like not the quote unquote like nothing that we can really do. I think our strongest thing that we can definitely fight for now, because we have precedent on it, is that we need general server stability. And I know they're working on Cash Shop, but like Cash Shop / game stability when changing channels and characters has to improve. Must be done before savior, or that update will be the opposite of its name. Got him. Throwing a meme in there. It'll be the opposite. It will be the killer instead of the savior. The problem is the decision making / transparency / pink bean bulletins frequency depth info details. There's something has to be done there as well. And I think in general, I mean I like I like my theory, obviously, because it's my theory, on that non-KMS content just basically has a huge shelf life and is kind of on the chopping block at any given time, and is mainly used as shiny, sparkly new thing to lure people back and to keep them occupied. And then once it starts interfering with either the game code or with upkeep, like dev hours, or just with the balance, then they exit. I don't know if they're ever going to change that strategy. And I wonder, under the it's better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all, under that beautiful proverb, of course, I wonder if people would really like if you could say, if Galaxy was removed tomorrow, would you have ever had it the way it was up until this point, or never have had it at all? I think most honest people would think about that and would say, well, unless the people who just started like a week ago and are like making coins now and are never going to be able to buy anything, that percentage of people will say like, oh, fuck everyone else. Like, yeah, I should have never had it. And everyone else is going to say, you know, it's going to be annoying. It's going to set a precedent for, you know, availability. It's going to set a precedent for legacy items. But in the long haul, in the really long haul, is the game still going to be playable without Golic stuff? Yes, because they can play it in Korea and we still have more other stuff. Plus, is it the ultimate best in slot? Realistically, for most people, yeah, but theoretically, no, it's not even best in slot, right? It does eventually get overtaken. So, is it going to be like game breaking? No. Will people have to adjust their planning and their strategy through the game? Definitely, right? I don't think we're ever going to get to a admission that like, yeah, that content is just to, you know, try to keep you guys on the hook a little bit longer. And then as soon as it has run its course or it's starting to interfere with the rest of our plan, we exit and we just throw something else, some more bait at you. I think that's our reality, though. I believe that's our reality. If you think that's like unethical, or the game developer not responding to that at all, neither confirming nor denying that to be the case, and that's too much insecurity for you, and you decide as a result that therefore you're not going to give your time and your money to this game, more power to you. You know, that's your decision to make, and I'll support your decision if you think that that's the best one in your interest there, right? But I don't know if we're ever going to get like any kind of info on that. I will reach out to the last boycott Discord that I'm still in and kind of see what stuff we can do. Maybe a chat. Yeah, not as much to break down here as I thought there might have been. Not too many things to write down as I thought there were. They're really short videos. There's not, thank God, it's not like 2-hour videos for both of them that I had to go through, right? Biggest side is that there is absolutely nothing like Maple in the market. I think when Maple was coming out, there were a lot of copycats, a lot of other games that tried to do what they were doing because they saw how many people they were, you know, getting over. But none of those games made it that long. And I think the closest thing to regular MapleStory that's like MapleStory is MapleStory private servers, I think. How about people making a profit selling Frenzy Totem servers for real money? Is that against the TOS? Yes. Because you're benefiting real money off of the exchange of an item that is not your property. Because the totem is Nexon's property. Oh yeah, feedback. Feedback from the chat time. any comments on my timeline, my characterization of things, the first couple percent video, the second video, the misusing TV video, the second couple percent video, anything, okay? I'll try to keep the answers short because there'll probably be quite a few questions, so go for it. There's no point for transparency when any Nexon isn't the shot caller. They do what they are told to do. Exactly. If that's the structure, then even if they were more transparent, that doesn't mean that we can do anything about it. So at most, we'll get a little bit more advanced notice on things, which, as minimal as it is, I think even that will probably be at least something, you know? But yeah, I don't see like a huge solution there if that's their structuring for sure. Could think about my PSBs before the boycott. Latail, or what was it? Latail, FlyFF, was it Wonder King? I've never played any of these games, but these always like kind of come up. Oh, Tree of Salvation? No, something like that. Elsword? Yeah, these are all games that I've heard mentioned, but I've never... Tree of Savior, that one. Salvation. Hey, close enough, dude. Honestly, I've been at this... We've been at this for so long, my brain is fried. Yeah, sorry, it's a little bit much for one session. When will you unveil the Nexon tattoo you have on your sack? I'll never show that. Well, actually, if you get my premium OnlyFans for $49.99 a month, you can actually... You get one tile, one part of the picture, one pixel, every month that you are subscribed. And if you get a random pixel. So if you're lucky, after like 2 years of subscription, you can actually just piece together the tattoo on the sack. But on average, I think it's going to take you about 7.5 years to get the full tattoo visible. Sacrix bad, Copercent good. Okay, based. What are you with straight up a Maple clone? Okay, yeah, I never played any of those. Also, I can say they want all to run under KMS ruling, then make it all the one same game and not just pick and choose what goes in and doesn't. I think. For like your sense of peace for content, that's probably, what's the word? Oh, dude, I'm ESLing super hard. Preferable. There we go. It's probably preferable. The problem is though, does the majority of the community would that also have a positive effect on the majority of the community? And I'm assuming, at least I'm hoping, inshallah, that the decisions that they're making in this regard are based on some kind of numbers and some kind of metrics on the background that would justify making these changes rather than just because we hate content that's not in Korea, right? It's more like, it's affecting this many players, it's roughly hurting us this much if we remove it, but we can then reallocate resources to these things, which will probably give us back that much. That second number is bigger than the first number, therefore plus, therefore go, kind of thing. And as long as we are somewhat staying in line with the intended balance in Korea and the game is not totally broken, then we're Gucci. That feels like kind of what their process is. Remove totem and see what Sacrix would say about that. Oh, remove frenzy totems? Yeah. I mean, I think in that sense, he'd be like, okay, it's going to be a completely different game, and I'm going to have to completely rethink what I do. But a lot of people will just be like, oh, you're going to be more okay with it because you already got all of your characters to 250, so it's not going to hurt you as much as other people. You know, I don't think you can ever win that one. But waiting for a second, I took my dad to get a colonoscopy and back in the time we were doing this. Oh, hope he gets some good results. Why are you so attached to your NX, your free NX, and when will you use it? I don't know. Next, I'm using it to keep my mom's vac pets alive, you know, because my mom carried me for 9 months, so I see it as my duty to carry her for the rest of her life where I can. And I probably will do some more NX giveaways because I've got too much NX now, way too much. I don't even know what to do with it. I'm probably going to give away like 500k or something the next time we have a permanent transparent NX. So hold on to your Moses because those will be the currency that you need to buy tickets for giveaways then. How dare Nexon remove pop tag game? True. I'm good. I already saw the cooking stream. Nice. Mad Bad also. Nodders. Okay. At least we will get the tattoo before hitting 300 in Maple. Yeah, that is true. Yeah, that'll be earlier. Just delete Golics and Familiars now so we can get it over with. Yeah, rip off that bandage, right? Korean corporate structure and culture is way too different from Western that it'd be hard to make changes without the classic truck in front of HQ. Yeah, and then it comes down to like power and numbers, right? Is GMS even big enough to even be a blimp on the radar screen of KMS of Korea and Nexon? Probably not. And then it just all just feels like you're just constantly eating a shit sandwich, and you can put some ketchup on it, but that doesn't do all that much, you know. Magic attack bad, attack good. True. How good or bad would it be if Nexon decided to make all the versions of the game the same as KMS? I mean, it would be like in the short term, it would feel horrible, right? But I think in the long term, for game stability, for managing it, it would be way better. Changes could be implemented way faster. We wouldn't be 6 months behind the server rate. We'd just be like translation behind, so probably like 2 to 3 months at the most. Probably 1 to 2, I would say. Because during the development, you could just develop it in 2 languages, right? So it might even mean that we're just like on pace with Korea. But the question is, does a Western market with Western consumers want a Korean product made for Korean consumers? The answer is almost definitely no. It's never going to line up perfectly there, right? Which is the whole reason why we have a different product in different regions to begin with. Not because they just love making different stuff and they love making a crap ton of different code that interferes with each other. It's because you're making a different product. Like if you buy Coca-Cola or something in Mexico or in South Africa or in China or in the US, you're getting it all has the Coca-Cola on the outside, but you're not getting the exact same product there, right? Like McDonald's all over the world is a different product, right? Is today weekly reset? A lot of stuff resets from Tuesday to Wednesday and Wednesday to Thursday. Check exclamation mark reset. Someone already put it in the chat. There you go. Just grew that all falls back on transparency communication. Exactly, yeah. The question is like, I think that's where the main problem is. But since we've been asking that for so long and they've been promising that they're going to increase it for so long, I think at a certain point you get just like, this is the best they can do. Not necessarily just the best they want to do, but maybe their hands are just tied because of the corporate structure, right? He's happy to be done shitting his brains out. The prep is pretty rough. Oh, I heard. Yeah, you have to drink like a lot, right? A lot of prep, and you have to drink all of it. I heard that, yeah. It's like this giant fucking barrel, like a whole gallon of shit that you just have to hork down, yeah. Moses, fuck yeah. Does anyone know if you can or can't max all the skills on Mihal's 3rd job? You should be able to max all of the skills up into 4th job of all of the characters in the game. The only exception there is because it has no jobs is Beastamer unemployed. Hold up, if we could buy everything with reward points like KMS, I think there's definitely a lot of value lost in GMS in terms of the reward shop for a reboot for sure. They could add some cool stuff there, add some red cards, you know. That would definitely be a shiny ring they could throw that would distract us a little bit. I just don't think that long. Yeah, no, definitely not. If you're during development, you're just developing it in both languages. It'd be pretty fast. We'd be up to date. Yeah. I feel like the thing that GMS, other non-given servers, make more money the way that it is. I think so. Being 6 months behind is nice anyway. Yeah, there's a big plus and there's a big con, right? The big pro and big con. The big pro is you can see where the direction that the game is going, so you can already make an adjustment on what are you investing your time and your money into. Plus. And as a extension of that, like, is there certain content that because it's going to change in 6 months, you can get a 6 months head start on saving up for certain stuff. The big downside is that since instant gratification is much bigger, or it seems like in the Western market, is that a lot of people are constantly not in the now and like trying to enjoy the now, but everything you do now is in preparation for what's to come 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, 1 year down the line. And that's good for Nexon because it makes you want to play constantly because you're always planning that far ahead. But it also can fuck with your brain a lot that every single small thing changing completely ruins your planning because you were already planning further ahead. And then that harms you more because it has a bigger impact on a bigger time frame. I would ironically give my left kidney to just play KMS the way it was intended. Most countries outlaw half the ingredients in American soft. Yeah. Well, yeah, but you're saying that like it's a bad thing. If things have like proven Some things, like the whole, war on drugs, and because it was like the paper industry and with hemp and everything, right? And it was definitely done in a wrong way. But if there's scientific evidence and there's been testing and long-term studies and all of that say that some things are just harmful to people's bodies, it's not necessarily a negative that you have to change your product to abide by, FDA regulations. Top one gripe for me in the game right now is the different cache inventories by far. Yeah, I remember in April of 2021 that they said that they actually always wanted, and they're actively going to keep pursuing, making a shared across the game cache up inventory. But we heard very, very little of it after that. So I think most people just accept that as a pipe dream that's never going to happen. What is this guy by Yumilove from April 15, 2023 said that this Mihal third job skill build 124 SB everything max except for Trinity attack. Oh, hang on. Let me log into Mihal real quick. Oh, actually, I was on the Mihal recently. I do believe you cannot max Trinity attack, yeah. But that's more like a fucking oversight of Nexon rather than that's how it should be. You should be able, like I said, you should be able to max everything. Fuck, where's Mahili? Oh, wait, it's here. Mahili! It's tryhard. Tryhard's in the chat, boys. 3 hard. Actually, I think you're right. Yeah. A Yumilove, dude. Still a beautiful source of inspiration. Ask a Yumilove, not us. Hang on. Hang on. Oh, more achievement points? Guys, look, I'm at 18,000. Isn't that beautiful? 71%. Yeah. First job. Oh, god damn. What is this? They reset my shit. Wait, what did the Yumilove say? Let me copy that real quick. Thank you for posting the resources. 65. 6. Oh, wait, 1? Oh, 1. 21, 31, 41, 51, 66. Cringe. Wait, so you can't max in first job either? What the? Yo, I'm not buying SP resets for this stuff. Oh no, you get Royal Guard automatically. Behastes. So we can max everything. Okay, cool. But yeah, you can just look at the monster levels, right? And then look at everything. And that skill, what is it? Don't max Trinity attack. Basically, if a skill is not necessary as a prerequisite for a skill that comes after it, as an attacking skill, then most of the time that's fine to not max. The only ones that you keep using is like rush skills and stuff like that. Oh, they redid this, of course, because of ignition, right? Right. And it was third job? Oh, and 4-point assault is now like your only attacking thing, and then the cross. Yeah, they changed how that works, right? Iridian cross here instead of having 2 main attacking skills kind of thing. Well, I have to work on that a little bit later. Sorry, outdated information for me. We're not Yumi can't read their mind. Well, yeah, the Mihal Discord could also help you. Be careful though, because if there's any kind of paper trail that you've been in my chat and send a message here before, you might just get barred from the Mihal Discord. So be careful. Eric Lowe made a response to Coppersan 2, by the way. Oh shit, one more?
Yo, what is going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. In
okay.
today's video, we are going to be talking about the current state of MapleStory. Now,
okay, this is a personal flaw of mine, but I hate vocal fry, and this is... We're gonna try to stay in the pocket, alright? I'm gonna see if I can muster the power of mind.
a lot of you guys have probably already seen the multiple videos made on this topic by Coppersan, Sacrix, and Misusing TV, and I guess I wanted to jump in on this topic and kind of give my 2 cents. The only reason why this video is being made is just to shed some light on this topic and get more noise in the community, because overall I do think the more opinions that are voiced, the better, and I think change will come. Now, first things first, I just want to make this statement before we get into this video so you guys know where our standpoint is on this entire discussion. I think MapleStory...
Yo, the guy was right. Star catching is a skill, dude. Look at how good this guy is at it.
The game,
Give me his ping.
The game itself is in a good state. I think this game currently is the best that it's ever been. If you compare this game to a year ago, to 2 years ago, the game currently is much better than it was in the previous years, and that is an undeniable fact. I'm sorry.
It just sounds like he's in pain.
If you disagree, you just weren't playing a year ago, or you were not playing 2 years ago, because comparing this game now to how it was 2 years ago, this game is much better. This game is...
You can see the video. It's literal just him fighting Damien. How... Look how good he is. I just said he succeeded in star catching. He did star catching on the fastest thing.
Much easier. This game is much
This has
more
nothing to do with what
accessible
we're
for a
listening
newer
to.
player to reach the mid game, end game than it ever has been, and that is something that we stand by. And if you need help reaching the mid game, end game, or think it's too hard, we have plenty of guys to help you do that. Now, obviously that's not the point of this video, but on the contrary,
Dude, do a little bit of self-promotion. Fuck it. It's your channel, man. Go for it.
do I think
What they've been
this
doing.
company
Oh, yeah,
is a good company? I think we can all agree collectively that we as a community need more communication from MapleStory, GMS, Nexon, whoever it is. At this point, I don't even know who is in charge. I feel like we have nobody that relays any information to us, and there's no communication whatsoever when it comes to changes made in GMS. Now, Coppercent touched on this issue in his video. If you haven't seen all the other videos, go and watch them. They pretty much summarize a lot of things, so I'm not going to go too in depth on
Watch them
some
all.
topics. But for example, jet removal,
Should've just gone to
Sweetwater
the front,
flames,
though.
totems being removed. Do I agree with all of these changes? No. I think a lot of the time they don't really think about how these changes affect players' time. Jet removal, for example, yeah, no one really had a jet, but for those who did have a jet, does
Damn, no one really had a jet. Rip.
kind of disregard all the time they put into making a class. Do I agree with it? Absolutely not. I think that they really should have thought that one through. Totem removal, I think, was an overall good change, but once again, their communication on the issue was kind of lackluster and had no actual direction. Sweetwater flames, let's be real, no one really did Sweetwater. Everyone hated doing Sweetwater, and then when it got removed, there was a huge uproar. But once again, they didn't have any communication on why exactly it got removed. Clearly a bug after 5 years being in the game. Like, come on, that makes absolutely zero sense. But
so
if
stupid.
Nexon were to actually communicate why these things had to be removed or what the reasons were, then maybe it wouldn't be such a bad thing and the community wouldn't be as upset as they are when changes like this hit the game. The issue why the player base has this type of reaction right now is because we have no communication from the game that we play. Of course, we have CM.
That and also the general, well, the vocal minority on like something like subreddit is just always number go down bad. It's the combination of those two things. Oh yeah, we can speed them up. You're right. I keep forgetting that's a
But there's
possibility.
only so much that they can do. They're put in a bad spot because, to be honest, I don't even think they know what's going on either. And I do agree with Coppercent in the fact that it does feel
Wait, how fast was his run? Let me check. 8 minutes. Oh, I think isn't that about how fast my DA sells it? But Bowmaster, dude, Bowmaster seems like it's something so good, and then some other things like very. Ugh.
be as upset as they are when changes
Which
like
is-
this hit
I mean,
the
which
game.
is in
The issue
general
why
is
the
a
player
good
base
thing. Like,
has
you gotta
this
have
type of reaction right now
clean-
is because we have no
clear flaws
communication
and
from
clear,
the game that we play.
downsides,
Of course,
man.
we have CMs, but there's only so much that they can do. They're put in a bad spot because, to be honest, I don't even think they know what's going on either. And I do agree with
Nah,
Coppercent in the
CMs just
fact
get
that it
left
does
in the dark
feel bad
completely.
not knowing what will happen to certain GMS content in the future. I wish that we could just get a direct answer of where they're going with this game.
Yo, you guys think I'm a hoarder? Look at this inventory. It's actually completely full. I thought I had issues. Damn. There's a Zakum helmet in here. Holy pink bean hat. There's a metal in here that you can just Oh god, he's playing on 1080p, isn't he? It's so small. My eyes aren't good enough for this. Curring. There's old temporary totems. Oh, he's keeping his traces too. Hell yeah. Gotta keep the trace graveyard.
and
I've
the
got that
direction that
too.
it's headed, and I think it would make the community feel a lot better about playing the game currently. Like Coppercent said in his video, we don't know if attack speed 0 is getting nerfed. We don't know if Golux is getting nerfed. We don't know if any of these changes are staying or if they're leaving, and it's that uncertainty which questions why players should or shouldn't play the game. I think if they really just made a statement, went in depth, and told us the direction is with these changes, it would make people feel a lot better about playing the game. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think it's really just a transparency and communication from this company. But overall, my stance on the game being a good game still stands. I do enjoy playing this game, and I think a lot of changes have happened that have made this game so much better. Just to name a few, Star Force changes, leveling is easier than it's ever been, droplets have been added to shops, link skill transfers, pet auto buff, boss crystal changes. That's just to name a few, and we will keep getting quality of life changes. But again, the overall theme is that
Of course
we
he gets the
need
fucking
more
source.
communication as a player base. That is just an undeniable fact, and I think we can all
Source
agree on
don't
that, whether you agree or disagree.
Well, we've established that he's playing a private server because he actually got a source to drop, and we know those don't actually exist.
The game is good or not, I think we can all agree that we need more communication. Of course, there are tons of changes that I would like to see in this game, but that's not what this video is about. If you want us to make a video on all the changes that we think should be implemented into this game, let me know and I'll be sure to make that video as well. I just want to add my 2 cents on this topic because I really want to see this game grow. If you know us, you know that we enjoy this game and all we care about is making
Finish
it
it off
as
with
big
the
as it
boom.
possibly can get. And for this game to get as big as it possibly can get, it starts with the communication from the company to the player base. But overall, do I think this game is worth picking up in 2023? Once again, I think the game itself is a good game, but the company needs some management and it needs better communication. Anyways, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments below. I'd love to hear some changes that you would like to see. If you
you
want
did
change,
trace
voice your
it.
opinion, but voice them
Unlucky.
with a solution. A lot of the times when it comes to MapleStory and
And that's why I say just because you get a pitch doesn't mean you have anything yet, okay? Unless it's finished and it's 22 stars. What you have is a possibility to lose money. That's all you have. You have a meso sink in your inventory. You don't have anything yet until until the fucking 22s.
the community, everyone likes to just say game bad, game bad. Like they don't want to actually voice their opinion with a logical response. They just want to say the game is bad with no actual resolution. So if you have a problem, come up with a resolution, articulate your words in a way that actually make a difference instead of just talking just to talk and just to hate on the game, because at the end of the day, that does absolutely nothing for the game. Make
Yo, Base, he agrees with what we were saying too, to a large extent. No. Ericlo also in the base club. Coppercent is here now. Now we just need to turn Matt and Sacrex over.
a video, but don't just go in comment sections and say the game is bad. I really hope in the future we do get better communication. They've said multiple times that we will get better communication, so let's hope after all of this we finally get better communication. As always, hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Wait, he's not thanking people at the end. Nice. And you're not asking people to like, comment, and subscribe. Also +1 for you. I dig it. All right. Any questions left in the chat? Did I forget to address anything? Any major glaring oversights? Anyone in the chat wants to attend me to? Remember, it is 15 minutes before reset, and it is Wednesday, so sell all your boss crystals. Pick up your challenge tokens from the NPC on the right side in the event map if you haven't already. Dude, he normally asks for subs? Lame. I disagree with you about the state of Kanas. Oh. As support, it's great right now. As anything else, it's pretty bad right now. No. Isn't like late game and end game training still really good as well? Because you have a lot of summons, so you can train on larger maps. I feel like you're basically just a 0 with just different utility. But probably better at solo bossing than 0. I can't sell anymore, but I got more crystals. Nice. Yeah, make more crystals for next week. Easy clap. Where treasure? Yeah, we'll work on that. Okay, it's a it's a slow process. All right, to get your whole treasure up there. Doesn't have crazy mobility. I mean, you've got a long teleport, you've got a trace teleport, you've got a jump up, you've got a big floating skills. Definitely don't have the best mobility, but it's not like you have nothing. Also, Zero's mobility took a big hit when their teleport skill got a cooldown on it, which I think is being slightly reinstated in the Savior update, if I'm not mistaken. I think kind of still a better monster than a 0, though. If you compare it to a 0, the positioning of a 0 right now, where would you rather be? A Kana, who's been that strong and has been able to get that many resources for so long and put that into the character where it is, or be like a 0? Coverage, I mean, you've got Kishin and you've got the Beast, and you got two really big summon skills across the map, right? You've got the domain and you've got the big Yaksha boss thing. I mean, again, trying to compare 1-to-1 is hard. But I could see how the character could be like below average in some things, but it'd definitely be above average in some other things. So, end goal should be, I think, is that it's somewhere around average, no? Very good, but the base damage and summons is low. Okay, so it requires more damage for scaling there, I guess. Floor pizzas didn't have summons so they can crit. I think they did that, yeah. But your teleport, are you referring to teleports that go to X location on the map? Yeah, I keep forgetting what it is called. The veins, sorry, the vein teleport. No infinite up jump equals shit. I mean, that was a really big selling point for Zero in the beginning, and they just completely axed that. That changed a lot of the profile of the class as well. I think that was a big yikes for Zero players to get used to. Getting some fat butts and savior. No, that's true. That's true. Butts? Fat butts? Oh, they're getting fat buffs. You're bragging to like one of the other few way worse than everyone. I wouldn't say way worse. I think we have unprecedented class parity, which does not mean that every character is equally good as every other class at every other thing. But I think across the board, we have enough pros and cons on classes. And even if you say this class is the worst, which there is always a class that's the worst, right? And depending on which metrics you would use, one class would end up being the worst. I don't think whichever class is the worst is considerably worse than the average. It's probably going to be considerably worse than whatever character is the best in that metric compared to the worst. The distance is probably still going to be like at least like a 2x, right? Maybe like a 3x of like highest divided by lowest. But the I think what matters more is the distance to the mean, to the median, to the average. Which one would matter here? Because you always have like one or two outliers. So should you take the average? You should probably take the median, right? Because mean is just kind of like memes, and average is also kind of memes. I think median is based, right? I feel like the majority, no character is the worst except Phantom. Nice. Median, some classes that are much worse, like the Holy Trinity, Zero, Arc, Kana. I don't think Arc is that bad. Again, it's a lot worse than where it was positioned, and it has more oversights, you know, than other classes and should get buffs. But again, I would be okay. Like, so I will say this: like, if there are 50 classes, and the class that I like ends up being the worst class, but it's only 5%, or let's say it's 10%. No, let's say that it's 25% weaker than the strongest class at like everything, and all the other classes are in between that, and mine ends up being the worst class, then I don't think that's a bad thing. This is why I think a lot of tier lists are kind of bullshit and kind of like doom posting, fear mongering, because just because a character is the lowest on the rank doesn't really say anything about how much worse it is than other characters. It just means that it's significantly enough worse in the grand scale of 50 classes that it is worth putting lower. But let's say that you have 50 classes and you're ranking one from 1 to 100, or you're ranking them from 1 to 50, right? That doesn't mean that number 1 or number 50 is like 1/50th as strong as the first one, right? Because it's just an ordinal ranking scale. So just because it's worse enough to be able to register doesn't mean that it's so significant that therefore it's bad, right? But that's always the implication of every tier list. So I think you need a whole bunch of caveating, and these are the metrics, and this is what we're basing the opinion on, and this is like personal enjoyment. Like, you have to put so many caveats on every tier list that I feel like it kind of defeats the purpose of almost making a tier list. Jet seems pretty bad. Depends on how you look at it. Jet is also the best it's ever been. Jet has been shitty for a long time, and it had like the worst name because it was always just a complete joke as a class. And that way it kind of sucks, is that they are in a really good position overall compared to how good they've ever been. And then as a reward, they get axed, I guess. Night Lord is the worst class that's for getting buffed in Savior. Not get buffed in Xavier because in KMS they were underperforming compared to the average of what they want, or the median that they want the characters to perform at. But because GMS has different rules for the game, it's actually a buff for a class that's already OP in GMS, which further shows why the disparity between GMS and KMS is something that maybe at some point should be addressed. I get the statement just to be clear. Okay. But then why can I see Gloom in 15 minutes when Night Lords can do it in 5? Because that's just one data point. I mean, it's an unsatisfactory example, but it's one data point. If you can show me one class that could do one thing very, very quickly, that does not tell me that therefore the whole game is unbalanced and my class should be buffed. It is one data point to consider, but it should never be the only data point that you use. Kane's an awful class. Oh, what is this? One minute 21. What is this? Is this a boss? 1.5 billion damage a second. What is this? A Kalos BA. Wait, I thought Kalos BA was like 34 seconds. Why is this 121? Oh, this is during the boss fight? How long the boss fight took? Just the party? Okay, yeah. Yeah, then this number says nothing. It doesn't tell me anything. I don't know what numbers I should have. But it's like with guild skills and with all the buffs. 1.5 bill. I mean, it's a crazy bursty. 118 trail is still huge. It could be. I don't know. I have not. And that's how I play the game. I know I'm making progress because my stats are getting better, but I don't know by how much. I have not done a BA on any of my characters probably in over 2 years. I don't track my progress based on how big that number go. Although I have been requested for Kalos Run to do like a 34-second BA to just kind of see where I'm at. But on the other hand, like I know I'm over 60k stat with my ring. I'm full 22. I've got Roar 3. And I've got 260 sack. So like, I feel like I shouldn't have to do those maths, you know. Okay, any closing statements, closing remarks, chat? Can you repeat the theory you made earlier? I think you said non-KMS content has an expiration date or something. Yeah, I think that non-KMS stuff is basically brought to GMS as a new shiny thing that players would want to be able to play with the ultimate goal is just to kind of renew and pique interest of existing players and new players coming back. And then as soon as it, and it's probably temporarily, it's very similar to, I think, a store putting in a promotion for a product that many people know, but they're selling it with a slight money loss, with a slight loss. But the goal is to lure you into the store and to buy the other projects. And once you get into the habit of coming to the store to buy your shit and you spend your money there, and you know the sale is already long over, that's when they do other sales to keep bringing new people back. But eventually that sale and a product is gone. The product is still there, but it's not quite the same after a while because the sale is gone, right? And I think it's a very similar tactic to luring people into the game, getting them to get the habit of playing it again regularly, and then after a while either because they want to, either because the balance effect is too big, or because it's too buggy, or because in general upkeep and development and interaction with other content is just not ideal. Then it's time to exit, and then but they have plenty of other products in sale, right? They have plenty of other promotions and new stuff coming in the future. So there's always like something new and shiny to get people's interest, essentially. That's kind of my theory at this point. Have you heard about Hava? Have a taste of these nuts. Like the FOMO event to lure people back. That's the other thing as well, right? There's an insane amount of FOMO preying on FOMO. Yeah. Can I sell a main with my Night Lord without any Link skills or Legion? Sure thing. And it definitely means that as you build Legion and Links later, you're going to feel a bigger impact of those on your gameplay. If you start with your Legion and Links immediately, your starting will be faster, but you will start reaching your ceiling of your potential of your character faster. If you start without Link skills, you won't really... You'll feel weak early on, but you'll always feel weak because there's only one state that you have in the beginning, which is weak. right? But you'll feel more the general progress of link skills in Legion as you run out of other ways of upgrading, as those become more time gated or more expensive. Okay. 6K Legion pretty free. La 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 la. We're comparing. Kane BGM. Yeah, we're going back to Kane. Kane BGM pretty good. Alright, we're almost 2 a.m. Did I end up taking my dailies in raid? I did not. Cringe, bro. Raid dailies not completed. Big yikes. There goes my energy consumption and my glyphs. How can I get some glyphs real quick? I can do those in 5 minutes. I'll just do one double run here. No, actually, this one is the slowest. Fuck, I should run the other one. Okay, Lumi reboot is no money. Reg server money, huge, speed things up. Non-reboot is can speed up with money, but also in the end game, it's simple to get a hold of items, but it's a fortune to upgrade them. Reboot is it's hard to get a hold of the items, but at that point it's easy to upgrade them because it's all with one shared resources that you have more of. So the opposite problem basically. Getting the item versus upgrading it, we have the opposite problem in endgame depending on the region that we're in. All right. Well, thanks for checking out this this breakdown. So I guess the full breakdown for the people who are going to skip everything. This is basically a little bit of a lineup of like all the things that happened in the game. Starting like a little bit over a year ago when the game was, I think, what is the main issue is that it was in a bad state in terms of server stability, changing characters, changing servers, maybe changing channels, mainly cache shop, just playing for a long time, memory leak, game was very unstable. So we had a boycott then to people basically saying we're not going to spend money until that shit is fixed. A lot of people laughed at it, being like, haha, nothing's going to happen. And then they actually probably felt it, took it really seriously, started working on, in February on 22, started working on updating the software first, then the hardware of a lot of servers to make sure that it was in a better situation. And by which I put some news here. I guess I'll save this. Do I upload this? Control A. Fucking docs, Google, spreadsheet, new. Hello? Yeah. No, not sheets. Oh, can I have a sheet on the bed? Here we go. Blank. Here we go. Type add to insert. Gotcha-gasm. Should. Yes. That is what I have copied. Wow, this looks quite horrible, but, you know, I guess I'll upload this and put it in the description or something for people who want to read. But so, you know, there is a precedent. They do take this stuff seriously. 64-bit client, even though not perfect, remember, the rollout of the 64-bit client on every other region was way worse than it was for us, okay? We, again, had the benefit there of being at the back of the train and seeing the shit show happen before us, and we were able to take precautions. They waited until a bunch of fatal stuff was fixed, and they loaded the feature with a few things already disabled that they knew were going to be broken, so that we didn't have that interfering with our gameplay too much. It still wasn't perfect. There still were several iterations to make the 64-bit client work properly, but after 64-bit release, like I would say like 2, 3, like a month after that, I think the game stability-wise was near perfection and the best it definitely has ever been by far. That's what I'm going to go back to, because I think if we get that, plus some admissions on communication if they're possible, or just the communication of we can't do that, either one of those, if we get those two things, I think we'll be in a completely different situation in how people... Wait, boycott is 1 T, isn't it? Oh my god, boycott is 2 Ts. Yeah, in the way that we receive news and in a way that we will be able to deal with bad news, essentially. Bloody bloody blah. Blee blee blue blue blah blah blah. I've played a long time, so you have to agree with me. Based. I made a video on it that time too about coming back to MapleStory for Destiny. I thought that was the best time. That's the first time and the only time so far I've ever said yes, it's worth to play the game. And then the game I think was great through the Midnight Carnival, although, you know, all of these events had their own issues and their own bugs. Not trying to say like those events were perfect, far from it. And then starting Ignition, November 2022, I think it started going slightly downwards spiral again. Storage lag was removed, which was really nice, but that could only carry us so far. I think Neo Tokyo, the game got even worse. Double Trouble, you know, it was nice, but I think a lot of people kind of had like fatigue with the general state of the game again in Double Trouble, because also like the totem removal and all of that stuff. A lot of people were kind of like, I don't know about playing this game, spending that amount of time. I'm just not sure. And I think we started feeling that a lot around March, and then since then the game stability has been steadily declining. And I think what should be a great update now is kind of more seen as in all the things we've lost and how annoying it is to like crash into cash up. That seems to be the main the main going thing now, instead of like, oh my god, it's the 18th anniversary, that's so cool, look at all these cool things that we can do. So yeah, I think that probably rightfully so has created the tension and the videos that we saw today. That's probably fair. Jet announcement was weird, out of left field. Yeah, sure, we have a lot of time to respond to it, but why is it there, right? We're always left with the but why, and why now, you know? And I guess that's the thing that Copperson was emphasizing, I think, a little bit too much, is the why now. Like, if now, then why not ever, right? But I think why now is a reasonable question to ask and to want an answer to. But saying like, well, if now, then why have it at all? Or yeah, that kind of train of thought, I feel like that's not necessarily like I would say correct, or like the one to go down. So Copperson video, players are resilient. Their resilience and patience is being tested. Yeah, and I think the players of MIPS are probably one of the most resilient, maybe pests even, parasites. Some might call them vermin or even weeds. You can never get rid of them. As much as Nexon tries, they can't get rid of us. But it doesn't mean that Nexon has to do every single thing in their power to try to get rid of us. That's obviously unfair, and it's getting taken care of. Yeah, I think he mainly mentioned all of the sore spots that definitely would resonate with a lot of people on Reddit, but not necessarily making the best arguments for them. And I guess Sakrix and Matt agreed with that, but were a little bit more aggressive in their disagreement with Copperson, which felt a little bit more, I think it felt a little bit more like attacks rather than like sensible disagreements a little bit. So I can see why people felt that way, especially when he had all of the clout on his side and all of his stock was way up on the subreddit at that time. The Copperson's base agreements kind of stayed the same. He still kind of stayed with the same thing with I'm going down bad. But I guess his main argument is that KMS should have the resources and have the dedication to the content for GMS to keep it up to date, or otherwise not implement it. I think that's kind of what his argument comes down to, is like, if you're gonna do it well, or don't do it at all, kind of thing. Cash up gains stability when shade. That's not how you spell that. Oh wait, that means I got it wrong here as well. Carnival. Dude, my spelling. I think my spelling... No. Ignore all, dude. That's how you spell favorably. Get out of here with your Americano spelling. But catch-up game's ability and changing channels and character has to improve 100%. Must be done before save. Oh wait, that's not Copperson's points. These are my points. No wonder I 100% agree. Keck. Yeah, so I think that's the main things. Game stability has to be a higher priority. I know that they are currently working on it and they're unable to reproduce why the cash up is crashing people, but they should have come up with something by now. I know they're working on it for like the last 2 months. This is kind of ridiculous now, right? So must have been for Savior, and that update will be the opposite of its name. Yeah, I think it could be kind of a GMS killer if those things just don't happen quickly. People are just going to start zoning out. Now, the one thing they've got going for them is that KMS is trying to save the game with New Age, and if New Age is really cool, that could extend the duration of how long they have to fix these things, because people in GMS will have newfound goodwill on, things they're willing to put up with. But again, to go back to Coppersen's point, just because we have goodwill that you can cash in on, doesn't mean that it's a good thing to do that. I don't think you should be allowed to really do that. You should have more respect for your player base as a result. So decision making, transparency, ping beam bulletins, the frequency, depth, and info details, and all of that. I wish we got more information on that, but I just don't think it's within the structure of Nexon that it's possible for us to get more information on that, sadly. So I wonder if we can come together with part community, part representatives, part content creators, part CMs, part someone from the dev team, or something like that, to kind of figure out like what is within our possibilities. How can we set up some kind of communication structure that will make it, because I know the forums exist, but a show of hands in the chat if you actually go to the Nexon forums or like the MapleStory forums and actually post on there and read posts on there. I think a subreddit and a Discord, but I don't really read things in the Discord either. I read things that go on the website, and that's mainly where I read things. Is like on the website. So I think like the forum should be like front and center on the website, and not kind of like pushed away on the website. I think, or like on the side. You forget we have them exactly on a daily basis. I don't believe you, Kappa. Okay, there you go. I don't, because they used to be really heavy-handed with censorship. Shell throw requires a weapon equipped and does not consume a shell. That's true. That's backwards. True. We should change that. Forums? Okay, yeah. So I think making the forums more front and center on the website and making them easier to access, and maybe, structure them to an extent that you can get more creator feedback and more game feedback more quickly, I think could also be something to work on. If you guys remember, that's one of the major things that 2 years ago they had to do in Korea when all of that stuff went down, in terms of like which issues were prominent in the community, and they wanted the devs to work on first, and then they restructured it a few times after that as the majority of issues, got fixed. But something like that, I think, would be enough to make it to feel like the players are more heard, they have a more direct line of communication, and at the same time, it's not directly interfering with the line of communication that Korea hands down, and it's not something that they have to restructure for that. Allow actual discussion on that, maybe? Yeah, and allow actual discussion, yeah. We need some internet jannies for that, though. But I'm sure what they have some side people doing moderation, people doing social media, people doing probably doing the Discord managing already. Could do that by extension, yeah. If you didn't bag ride corporate Nexon, you would get banned. It's not a shock why they're a ghost town. Is like for people who are employees? Is that what you're talking about, Vince Flowers? Oh, you think the people who were like on the forums, you mean? Yeah, it seemed, well, that everything I ever saw from the appearance from the forums posts on there seemed to be very, very PG, very like uncontroversial type posts, yeah. But you could just have like a part of the forum that's called like the Abyss or something that you just go into like shitpost. Which would basically be the subreddit at that point, right? Yeah. Oh. Hoping New Age doesn't turn into Big Bang. Well, that would be the end. Got scrapped due to the corruption and just flat out not getting answers by Nexon. MWLB. Oh, those were like community janitors, right? Maplehood Watch. Legion Brigade. It's 3 AM here. Yeah, good night, good night. To like, je sais pas, was that French or I misheard? No, it would be je ne sais quoi, right? It has that je ne sais quoi. People watch Leaf Brigade. That's what it was. Yeah, I remember that. Okay, so yeah, I know, huge video, but I put a little rundown at the end, okay? So that's hopefully within 10 minutes, so you get the short attention span. People can also kind of get to the gist of everything that I said. Of course, if you want more details to it, or you're jumping to, or you think you have a very strong conclusion because of it, I'm gonna expect you to watch the entire video and use your huge brain during all of your grinding tomorrow, okay? And make sure that you've got the right arguments, and then if you have disagreements and you've got good arguments, find me after school. All right, I'll be down by the bleachers up until 6:30. No weapons, just fists. No, I'm just saying, come to the stream, leave a comment, whatever you feel like you need to do, and let's engage in conversation about agreements and disagreements. Okay, but yeah, I'll hit up the boycott Discord and we'll see what we can get started up. Maybe some posts, some write-ups, some good stuff. Okie dokie. Thanks for being here for all this, and for hanging out, and for sharing your opinion. And hopefully we can move forward to a better MapleStory.